Privacy and online privacy, passing a federal privacy standard has been long in the works. I filed my first privacy bill when I was in the House back in 2012, and I think that it will be this Congress and this subcommittee that is going to lead the way to online privacy, data security, Section 230 reforms. And of course, Senator Klobuchar always wants to talk about antitrust. And I have to give a nod. Senator Markey is down there. When we were in the House, we were probably two of the only ones who were talking about the need to have a federal privacy standard. Now, as the chairman mentioned, last week we heard from Ms. Davis, who heads global safety for Facebook. And it was surprising to us that what she tried to do was to minimize the information that was in these documents, to minimize the research, and to minimize the knowledge that Facebook had. At one point, I even reminded her the research was not third-party research. The research was there, Facebook's internal research. So they knew what they were doing. They knew where the violations were. And they know they are guilty. They know this. Their research tells them this. Last week, in advance of our hearing, Facebook released 2 studies and said that the Wall Street Journal was all wrong. They had just gotten it wrong, as if the Wall Street Journal did not know how to read these documents and how to work through this research. Having seen the data that you've presented and the other studies that Facebook did not publicly share, I feel pretty confident that it's Facebook who has done the misrepresenting to this committee. Here are some of the numbers that Facebook chose not to share. And Mr. Chairman, I think it's important that we look at these as we talk about the setting for this hearing, what we learned last week, what you and I have been learning over the past 3 years about big tech and Facebook. And here you go, 66% of teen girls on Instagram and 40% of teen boys experience negative social comparisons. This is Facebook's research. 52% of teen girls who experienced negative social comparison on Instagram said it was caused by images related to beauty. Social comparison is worse on Instagram because it is perceived as real life, but based on celebrity standards. Social comparison mimics the grief cycle and includes a downward emotional spiral encompassing a range of emotions from jealousy to self-proclaimed body dysmorphia. Facebook addiction, which Facebook calls conveniently problematic use, is most severe in teens, peaking at age 14. Here's what else we know. Facebook is not interested in making significant changes to improve kids' safety on their platforms, at least not when that would result in losing eyeballs on posts.
This transformation is seriously insane. It's crazy. Love handles, gone. Pooch, gone.
It just kind of gives me that right there.
Only making those changes that add to its users' numbers and ultimately its profits. Follow the money. So what are these changes? Allowing users to create multiple accounts that Facebook does not delete, and encouraging teens to create second accounts they can hide from their parents. They are also studying younger and younger children, as young as 8, so that they can market to them. And while Ms. Davis says that kids below 13 are not allowed on Facebook or Instagram. We know that they are because she told us that they recently had deleted 600,000 accounts from children under age 13. So how do you get that many underage accounts if you aren't turning a blind eye to them in the first place? And then in order to try to clean it up, you go to delete it, and then you say, oh, by the way, we just in the last month deleted 600,000 underage accounts. And speaking of turning a blind eye, Facebook turns a blind eye to user privacy. News broke yesterday that the private data of over 1.5 billion, that's right, 1.5 billion Facebook users is being sold on a hacking forum. That's its biggest data breach to date. Examples like this underscore my strong concerns about Facebook collecting the data of kids and teens and what they are doing with it. Facebook also turns a blind eye toward blatant human exploitation taking place on its platform, trafficking, forced labor, cartels, the worst possible things one can imagine. Big tech companies have gotten away with abusing consumers for too long. It is clear that Facebook prioritizes profit over the well-being of children and all users. So as a mother and a grandmother, this is an issue that is of particular concern to me. So we thank you for being here today, Ms. Haugen, and we look forward to getting to the truth about what Facebook is doing with users' data and how they are abusing their privacy and how they show a lack of respect for the individuals that are on their network. We look forward to the testimony. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Senator Blackburn. Thank you, Senator Blackburn. I don't know whether the ranking member would like to make
If you don't mind, thank you, Chairman Blumenthal, and I will just take a moment or two, and I do appreciate being able to speak as ranking member of the full committee. This Ms. Haugen, this is a subcommittee hearing. You see some vacant seats. There's pretty good attendance for a subcommittee. There are also a lot of things going on, so people will be coming and going. But I'm willing to predict that this will have almost 100% attendance by members of the subcommittee because of the importance of this subject matter. So thanks for coming forward to share concerns about Facebook's business practices, particularly with respect to children and teens. And of course, that is the main topic of it's the title of our hearing today, Protecting Kids Online. The recent revelations about Facebook's mental health effects on children and its plan to target younger audiences are indeed disturbing. And I think you're going to see a lot of bipartisan concern about this today and in future hearings. They show how urgent it is for Congress to act against powerful tech companies on behalf of children and the broader public. And I say powerful tech companies, they are possessive of immense power. Their product is addictive, and people on both sides of this dais are concerned about this. I talked to an opinion maker just down the hall a few moments before this hearing. This person said, the tech gods have been demystified now. And I think this hearing today, Mr. Chair, is a part of the process of demystifying big tech. The children of America are hooked on their product. It is often destructive and harmful, and there is a cynical knowledge on behalf of the leadership of these big tech companies.
Today, I'm going to show you the 5 foods you must avoid.
Do you love boating?
committee and how this Congress can ensure greater accountability and transparency, especially with regard to children. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Hogan, for being here today.
Thanks, Senator Wicker. Our witness this morning is Frances Haugen. She was the lead product manager on Facebook's civic misinformation team. She holds a degree in electrical and computer engineering from Olin College and an MBA from Harvard. She made the courageous decision, as all of us here and many others around the world know, to leave Facebook and reveal the terrible truths about the company she learned during her tenure there. And I think we are all in agreement here in expressing our gratitude and our admiration for your bravery in coming forward. Thank you, Ms. Haugen. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chairman Blumenthal, Ranking Member Blackburn, and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you. My name is Frances Haugen. I used to work at Facebook. I joined Facebook because I think Facebook has the potential to bring out the best in us. But I'm here today because I believe Facebook's products harm children, stoke division, and weaken our democracy. The company's leadership knows how to make Facebook and Instagram safer, but won't make the necessary changes because they have put their astronomical profits before people. Congressional action is needed. They won't solve this crisis without your help. Yesterday, we saw Facebook get taken off the internet. I don't know why it went down, but I know that for more than 5 hours, Facebook wasn't used to deepen divides, destabilize democracies, and make young girls and women feel bad about their bodies. It also means that millions of small businesses weren't able to reach potential customers, and countless photos of new babies weren't joyously celebrated by family and friends around the world. I believe in the potential of Facebook. We can have social media we enjoy that connects us without tearing apart our democracy, putting our children in danger, and sowing ethnic violence around the world. We can do better. I have worked as a product manager at large tech companies since 2006, including Google, Pinterest, Yelp, and Facebook. My job has largely focused on algorithmic products like Google Plus Search and recommendation systems like the one that powers the Facebook newsfeed. Having worked on 4 different types of social networks, I understand how complex and nuanced these problems are. However, the choices being made inside of Facebook are disastrous for our children, for our public safety, for our privacy, and for our democracy. And that is why we must demand Facebook make changes. During my time at Facebook, first working as the lead product manager for civic misinformation, and later on counter-espionage, I saw Facebook repeatedly encounter conflicts between its own profits and our safety. Facebook consistently resolved these conflicts in favor of its own profits. The result has been more division, more harm, more lies, more threats, and more combat. In some cases, this dangerous online talk has led to actual violence that harms and even kills people. This is not simply a matter of certain social media users being angry or unstable, or about one side being radicalized against the other.
Hello.
To grow at all costs, becoming an almost $1 trillion company by buying its profits with our safety. During my time at Facebook, I came to realize a devastating truth. Almost no one outside of Facebook knows what happens inside of Facebook. The company intentionally hides vital information from the public, from the US government, and from governments around the world. The documents I have provided to Congress prove that Facebook has repeatedly misled the public about what its own research reveals about the safety of children, the efficacy of its artificial intelligence systems, and its role in spreading divisive and extreme messages. I came forward because I believe that every human being deserves the dignity of the truth. The severity of this crisis demands that we break out of our previous regulatory frames. Facebook wants to trick you into thinking that privacy protections or changes to Section 230 alone will be sufficient. While important, these will not get to the core of the issue, which is that no one truly understands the destructive choices made by Facebook except Facebook. We can afford nothing less than full transparency. As long as Facebook is operating in the shadows, hiding its research from public scrutiny, it is unaccountable. Until the incentives change, Facebook will not change. Left alone, Facebook will continue to make choices that go against the common good, our common good. When we realized big tobacco was hiding the harms it caused, the government took action. When we figured out cars were safer with seatbelts, the government took action. And when our government learned that opioids were taking lives, the government took action. I implore you to do this.
Except not with crack though. They didn't take action. They just
perception of the world by choosing.
they just told us to say no.
Even those who don't use Facebook are impacted by the majority who do. A company with such frightening influence over so many people, over their deepest thoughts, feelings, and behavior, needs real oversight. But Facebook's closed design means it has no real oversight. Only Facebook knows how it personalizes your feed for you. At other large tech companies like Google, any independent researcher can download from the internet the company's search results and write papers about what they find. And they do. But Facebook hides behind walls that keeps researchers and regulators from understanding the true dynamics of their system. Facebook will tell you privacy means they can't give you data. This is not true. When tobacco companies claimed that filtered cigarettes were safer for consumers, scientists could independently invalidate these marketing messages and confirm that, in fact, they posed a greater threat to human health. The public cannot do the same with Facebook. We are given no other option than to take their marketing messages on blind faith. Not only does the company hide most of its own data, my disclosure has proved that when Facebook is directly asked questions as important as, how do you impact the health and safety of our children, they mislead and they choose to mislead and misdirect. Facebook has not earned our blind faith. This inability to see into Facebook's actual systems and confirm how they work is communicated and confirm that they work as communicated is like the Department of Transportation regulating cars by only watching them drive down the highway. Today, no regulator has a menu of solutions for how to fix Facebook because Facebook didn't want them to know enough about what's causing the problems. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been need for a whistleblower. How is the public supposed to assess if Facebook is resolving conflicts of interest in a way that is aligned with the public good if the public has no visibility into how Facebook operates? This must change. Facebook wants you to believe that the problems we're talking about are unsolvable. They want you to believe in false choices. They want you to believe that you must choose between a Facebook full of divisive and extreme content or losing one of the most important values our country was founded upon, free speech. That you must choose between public oversight of Facebook's choices and your personal privacy. That to be able to share fun photos of your kids with old friends, you must also be inundated with anger-driven virality. They want you to believe that this is just part of the deal. I am here today to tell you that's not true.
Come on.
These problems are solvable. A safer, free speech respecting, more enjoyable social media is possible. But there's one thing that I hope everyone takes away from these disclosures. It is that Facebook can change, but is clearly not going to do so on its own. My fear is that without action, divisive and extremist behaviors we see today are only the beginning. What we saw in Myanmar and are now seeing in Ethiopia are only the opening chapters of a story so terrifying, no one wants to read the end of it. Congress can change the rules that Facebook plays by and stop the many harms it is now causing. We now know the truth about Facebook's destructive impact. I really appreciate the seriousness which the members of Congress and the Securities and Exchange Commission are approaching these issues. I came forward at great personal risk because I believe we still have time to act. But we must act now. I'm asking you, our elected representatives, to act.
Thank you, Ms. Haugen. Thank you for taking that personal risk, and we will do anything and everything to protect and stop any retaliation against you and any legal action that the company may bring to bear, or anyone else. And we've made that, I think, very clear in the course of these proceedings. I want to ask you about this idea of disclosure. You've talked about looking, in effect, at a car going down the road, and we're going to have 5-minute rounds of questions, maybe a second round if you're willing to do it. We're here today to look under the hood, and that's what we need to do more. In August, Senator Blackburn and I wrote to Mark Zuckerberg, and we asked him pretty straightforward questions about how the company works and safeguards children and teens on Instagram, Facebook dots.
Yo, for my Instagram fan watching, I can't adjust the screen, but when it goes back to HUD just speaking, it'll be centered. So just do the knowledge, keep paying attention. It's mad ill. This is crazy. It's not really crazy. I've been telling cats this for years, but you know how that go. You know what I mean? Y'all don't trust it coming from your own, but maybe coming from them, you might listen to it. You know what I'm saying? Because I've been saying this for years. So I know I might seem like I'm tripping.
Facebook's internal research reports
Come on, man.
indicate that Facebook has a serious negative harm on a significant portion of teenagers and younger and children.
And has Facebook ever offered features that it knew had a negative effect on children's and teens' mental health?
Facebook knows that its amplification algorithms, things like engagement-based ranking on Instagram, can lead children from very innocuous topics like healthy recipes. I think all of us can eat a little more healthy. All the way from just something innocent like healthy recipes to anorexia promoting content over a very short period of time.
And has Facebook ever found, again, in its research, that kids show sign of addiction on Instagram?
Facebook has studied a pattern that they call problematic use, what we might more commonly call addiction. It has a very high bar for what it believes it is. It says you self-identify that you don't have control over your usage and that it is materially harming your health, your schoolwork, or your physical health. 5 to 6% of 14-year-olds have the self-awareness to admit both those questions. It is likely that far more than 5 to 6% of 14-year-olds are addicted to Instagram.
Last Thursday, my colleagues and I asked Ms. Davis, who was representing Facebook, about how the decision would be made whether to pause permanently Instagram for kids. And she said, quote, "There's no one person who makes a decision like that. We think about it that collaboratively." It's as though she couldn't mention Mark Zuckerberg's name. Isn't he the one who will be making this decision from your experience in the company?
Mark holds a very unique role in the tech industry in that he holds over 55% of all the voting shares for Facebook. There are no similarly powerful companies that are as unilaterally controlled. And in the end, the buck stops with Mark. There's no one currently holding Mark accountable but himself.
And Mark Zuckerberg, in effect, is the algorithm designer-in-chief, correct?
I received an MBA from Harvard, and they emphasized to us that we are responsible for the organizations that we build. Mark has built an organization that is very metrics-driven. It is intended to be flat. There is no unilateral responsibility. The metrics make the decision. Unfortunately, that itself is a decision. And in the end, if he is the CEO and the chairman of Facebook, he is responsible for those decisions.
The buck stops with him.
The buck stops with him.
And speaking of the buck stopping, you have said that Facebook should declare moral bankruptcy. I agree. Yeah. I think its actions and its failure to acknowledge its responsibility indicate moral bankruptcy.
There is a cycle occurring inside the company where Facebook has struggled for a long time to recruit and retain the number of employees it needs to tackle the large scope of projects that it has chosen to take on. Facebook is stuck in a cycle where it struggles to hire. That causes it to understaff projects, which causes scandals, which then makes it harder to hire. Part of why Facebook needs to come out and say, we did something wrong, we made some choices that we regret, is the only way we can move forward and heal Facebook is we first have to admit the truth. Like the way we'll have reconciliation and we can move forward is by first being honest
and
and declaring
acknowledging that
moral
Facebook,
bankruptcy.
being honest and acknowledging that pain simply make more money. And aggravate a lot of pain simply make more money. And it has profited off spreading disinformation and misinformation and sowing hate. Facebook's answers to Facebook's destructive impact always seems to be more Facebook. We need more Facebook, which means more pain and more money for Facebook. Would you agree?
I don't think at any point Facebook set out to make a destructive platform. I think it is a challenge of that Facebook has set up an organization where the parts of the organization responsible for growing and expanding the organization are separate and not regularly cross-pollinated with the parts of the company that focus on the harms that the company is causing. And as a result, regularly, integrity actions, projects that were hard fought by the teams trying to keep us safe, are undone by new growth projects that counteract those same remedies. So I do think it's a thing of there are organizational problems that need oversight, and Facebook needs help in order to move forward to a more healthy place.
And whether it's teens bullied into suicidal thoughts or the genocide of ethnic minorities in Myanmar, or fanning the flames of division within our own country or in Europe, they are ultimately responsible for the immorality of the pain that's caused.
Facebook needs to take responsibility for the consequences of its choices. It needs to be willing to accept small trade-offs on profit. And I think just that act of being able to admit that it's a mixed bag is important. And I think that what we saw from Antigone last week is an example of the kind of behavior we need to support Facebook in growing out of, which is instead of just focusing on all the good they do, admit they have responsibilities to also remedy the harm.
But Mark Zuckerberg's new policy is no apologies, no admissions, no acknowledgement, nothing to see here. We're going to deflect it and go sailing. I turn to the ranking member.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your testimony. I want to stay with Ms. Davis and some of her comments because I had asked her last week about the underage users. And she had made the comment, I'm going to quote from her testimony, if we find an account of someone who's under 13, we remove them. In the last 3 months, we removed 600,000 accounts of under 13-year-olds, end quote. And I have to tell you, it seems to me that there's a problem if you have 600,000 accounts from children who ought not to be there in the first place. So what did Mark Zuckerberg know about Facebook's plans to bring kids on as new users and advertise to them?
There are reports within Facebook that show cohort analyses where they examine at what ages do people join Facebook and Instagram. And based on those cohort analyses, so Facebook likes to say children lie.
Cohort analyses. This would be the new word.
Enough kids tell the truth.
Because y'all didn't know that word before.
Backwards to figure out what are
When I was telling you about things like this, which I was telling me I don't know what the algorithm is.
Facebook does cohort analyses and looks back retrospectively, it discovers things like, up to 10 to 15% of even 10-year-olds in a given cohort may be on Facebook or Instagram.
Okay, so this is why Adam Mosseri, who's the CEO of Instagram, would have replied to Jojo Siwa when she said to him, oh, I've been on Instagram since I was 8. He said he didn't want to know that.
Yeah.
So it would be for this reason, correct?
A pattern of behavior that I saw at Facebook was that often problems were so understaffed that there was kind of an implicit discouragement from having better detection systems. So for
Okay.
example, I worked, my last team at Facebook was on the counter-espionage team within the threat intelligence org. And at any given time, our team could only handle a third of the cases that we knew about. We knew that if we built even a basic detector, we would likely have many more cases.
Okay, then let me
Similarly,
ask
oh,
you.
sure,
Yeah, let me ask you this. So you look at the way that they have the data, but they're choosing to keep that data and advertise from it, right?
Mhm.
You sell it to third parties. So what does Facebook do? You've got these 600,000 accounts that ought not to be on there.
Probably
And-
more.
And, right. But then you delete those accounts, but what happens to that data? Does
Now, just
Facebook
a moment.
keep that
You know what I'm
data?
saying?
Do they
I just want to say,
to
real fast, that you're gonna see this struggle of sensibility, because you got like people that are not tech savvy asking questions about technical shit. So what you're gonna find is that, you know, some of the questioning won't touch certain things. Like, I'm sure they're not gonna all right, I'll turn it up some more. You're gonna have people, you know, they're not gonna talk about artists that are having this experience. They're not gonna talk about things like that in theory. So we'll see how this play, but let me turn it back up so we could vibe out.
Much more effective than probably what they're doing today.
Got it. Now, staying with this underage children, since this hearing is all about kids and about online privacy, I want you to tell me how Facebook is able to do market research on these children that are under age 13, because Mrs. Davis was really, she didn't deny this last week. So how are they doing this? Do they bring kids into focus groups with their parents? How do they get that permission? She said they got permission from parents. Is there a permission slip or a form that gets signed? And then how do they know which kids to target?
Brush your teeth in less than 10.
Never use Ziploc bags again.
Servers, so.
Pardon me. I'm just trying to get this thing so I can control the volume a little better. My bad.
Analysis of were around Messenger Kids, which has children on it. And those focus groups appear to be children interacting in person. Often companies use either sourcing agencies that will go and identify people who meet certain demographic criteria, or they will reach out directly based on data on the platform. So for example, on the case of Messenger Kids, maybe you would want to study a child that was an active user and one that was a less active user. You might reach out to some that came from each population.
And so these are children that are under age 13.
Yeah.
And they know it.
For some of these studies. And I assume they get permission, but I don't work on that.
Okay. Well, we're still waiting to get a copy of
shedding a light on how Facebook time and time again has put profit over
Yeah, pardon me. I'm just trying to get
when
this
their
damn
own research found
the
that more
audio
than
to come through the right
13% of
channel
teen
so that
girls
y'all can
say
hear.
that
But I
Instagram
just gotta play
made
it through
their
this
thoughts
though.
of
You heard?
suicide worse. What did? They proposed
What's bugged is
Instagram
that
for Kids, which has now been put on pause because
the
of
sound will
public
go
pressure.
just bring itself
When
down. I don't know
they
what's up
found
with that,
out
but let's just
their
keep it rocking though.
algorithms are fostering polarization, misinformation, and hate, that they allowed 99% of their violent content to remain unchecked on their platform, including lead up to the January 6th insurrection. What did they do? They now, as we know, Mark Zuckerberg's going sailing and saying no apologies. I think the time has come for action, and I think you are the catalyst for that action. You have said privacy legislation is not enough. I completely agree with you. But I think you know we have not done anything to update our privacy laws in this country, our federal privacy laws. Nothing, zilch, in any major way. Why? Because there are lobbyists around every single corner of this building that have been hired by the tech industry. We have done nothing when it comes to making the algorithms more transparent, allowing for the university research that you referred to. Why? Because Facebook and the other tech companies are throwing a bunch of money around this town and people are listening to them. We have done nothing significantly past, although we are on a bipartisan basis working in the antitrust subcommittee to get something done on consolidation, which you understand allows the dominant platforms to control all this, like the bullies in the neighborhood, buy out the companies that maybe could have competed with them and added the bells and whistles. So the time for action is now. So I'll start with something that I asked Facebook's head of safety when she testified before us last week. I asked her how they estimate the lifetime value of a user for kids who start using their products before they turn 13. She evaded the question and said,
Yo, shout out
that's
to
not the way
GB3.
we think about it.
Shout out to China
Is that
Tanya.
right, or is it your
Punch
experience
Drunk
that Facebook
Proxy.
estimates and puts a value
That's traveling,
on
you know what I'm
how
saying,
much
Brooklyn
money
Raw.
they get from users
And everybody
in general,
else
get to
watching, you
kids
know what I'm
in
saying?
second? Is that a motivating force for them?
Based on what I saw in terms of allocation of integrity spending, so one of the things disclosed in the Wall Street Journal was that I believe it's like 87% of all the misinformation spending is spent on English, but only about like 9% of the users are English speakers. It seems that Facebook invests more in users who make them more money, even though the danger may not be evenly distributed based on profitability.
Does it make sense that having a younger person get hooked on social media at a young age makes them more profitable over the long term as they have a life ahead of them?
Facebook's internal documents talk about the importance of getting younger users, for example, tweens, onto Instagram, like Instagram Kids, because they need to have, they know that children bring their parents online and things like that. And so they understand the value of younger users for the long-term success of Facebook.
Facebook reported advertising revenue to be $51.58 per user last quarter in the US and Canada. When I asked Ms. Davis how much of that came from Instagram users under 18, she wouldn't say. Do you think that teens are profitable for their company?
I would assume so, based on advertising for things like television. You get much substantially higher advertising rates for customers who don't yet have preferences or habits. And so I'm sure they are some of the more profitable users on Facebook, but I do not work directly on that.
Another major issue that's come out of this, eating disorders. Studies have found that eating disorders actually have the highest mortality rate of any mental illness for women. And I led a bill on this with Senators Capito and Baldwin that we passed into law. And I'm concerned that this algorithms that they have pushes outrageous content, promoting anorexia and the like. I know it's personal to you. Do you think that their algorithms push some of this content to young girls?
Facebook knows that the engagement-based ranking, the way that they pick the content in Instagram for young users, for all users, amplifies preferences. And they have done something called a proactive incident response, where they take things that they've heard, for example, like, can you be led by the algorithms to anorexia content? And they have literally recreated that experiment themselves and confirmed, yes, this happens to people. So Facebook knows that they are leading young users to anorexia content.
Do you think they are deliberately designing their product to be addictive beyond even that content?
Facebook has a long history of having a successful and very effective growth division, where they take little tiny tweaks and they constantly are trying to optimize it to grow. Those kinds of stickiness could be construed as things that facilitate addiction.
Right. Last thing I'll ask is, we've seen this same kind of content in the political world. You brought up other countries and what's been happening there. On 60 Minutes, you said that Facebook implemented safeguards to reduce misinformation ahead of the 2020 election, but turned off those safeguards right after the election. And you know that the insurrection occurred January 6th. Do you think that Facebook turned off the safeguards because they were costing the company money, because it was reducing profits?
Facebook has been emphasizing a false choice. They've said the safeguards that were in place before the election implicated free speech. The choices that were happening on the platform were really about how reactive and twitchy was the platform, right? Like how viral was the platform. And Facebook changed those safety defaults in the run-up to the election because they knew they were dangerous. And because they wanted that growth back, they wanted the acceleration of the platform back after the election, they returned to their original defaults. And the fact that they had to break the glass on January 6th and turn them back on, I think that's deeply problematic.
Agree. Thank you very much for your bravery in coming forward.
Senator Thune.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Ranking Member Blackburn. I've been arguing for some time that it is time for Congress to act, and I think the question is always, what is the correct way to do it, the right way to do it, consistent with our First Amendment right to free speech. This committee doesn't have jurisdiction over the antitrust issue. That's the Judiciary Committee, and I'm not averse to looking at the monopolistic nature of Facebook, honestly. I think that's a real issue that needs to be examined and perhaps addressed as well. But at least under this committee's jurisdiction, there are a couple of things I think we can do. And I have a piece of legislation, and Senators Blackburn and Blumenthal are both co-sponsors, called the Filter Bubble Transparency Act. And essentially what it would do is give users the options to engage with social media platforms without being manipulated by these secret formulas that essentially dictate the content that you see when you open up an app or log on to a website. We also, I think, need to hold big tech accountable by reforming Section 230. And one of the best opportunities, I think, to do that, at least in a bipartisan way, is the Platform Accountability and Consumer Transparency, or the PACT Act, and that's legislation that I've co-sponsored with Senator Schatz, which, in addition to stripping Section 230 protections for content that a court determines to be illegal, the PACT Act would also increase transparency and due process for users around the content moderation process. And importantly, in the context we're talking about today with this hearing, with a major big tech whistleblower, the PACT Act would explore the viability of a federal program for big tech employees to blow the whistle on wrongdoing inside the companies where they work. In my view, we should encourage employees in the tech sector like you to speak up about questionable practices of big tech companies, so we can, among other things, ensure that Americans are fully aware of how social media platforms are using artificial intelligence and opaque algorithms to keep them hooked on the platform. So let me, Ms. Haugen, just ask you, we've learned from the information that you provided that Facebook conducts what's called engagement-based ranking, which you've described as very dangerous. Could you talk more about why engagement-based ranking is dangerous, and do you think Congress should seek to pass legislation like the Filter Bubble Transparency Act that would give users the ability to avoid engagement-based ranking altogether?
Facebook is going to say, you don't want to give up engagement-based ranking. You're not going to like Facebook as much if we're not picking out the content for you. That's just not true. There are a lot of, Facebook likes to present things as false choices, like you have to choose between having lots of spam. Like let's say, imagine we ordered our feeds by time, like on iMessage or on, there are other forms of social media that are chronologically based. They're going to say, you're going to get spammed, like you're not going to enjoy your feed. The reality is that those experiences have a lot of permutations. There are ways that we can make those experiences where computers don't regulate what we see. We together socially regulate what we see. But they don't want us to have that conversation because Facebook knows that when they pick out the content that we focus on using computers, we spend more time on their platform, they make more money. The dangers of engagement-based ranking are that Facebook knows that content that elicits an extreme reaction from you is more likely to get a click, a comment, or reshare. And it's interesting because those clicks and comments and reshares aren't even necessarily for your benefit. It's because they know that other people will produce more content if they get the likes and comments and reshares. They prioritize content in your feed so that you will give little hits of dopamine to your friends so they will create more content. And they have run experiments on people, producer-side experiments, where they have confirmed this.
So yeah. you and your part of the information you provided the Wall Street Journal, it's been found that Facebook altered its algorithm in an attempt to boost these meaningful social interactions, or MSI. But rather than strengthening bonds between
the shit
family
we
and
gotta
friends on
be
the
paying
platform, the
attention to,
algorithm
y'all.
instead rewarded more outrage and
This is it.
sensationalism.
This is the
And I
shit
think
you
Facebook
gotta
would
pay
say that
attention
its
to.
algorithms are used to connect individuals with other friends and family that are largely positive. Do you believe that
Like,
Facebook's
listen, fam,
algorithms make
like,
its platform a
hold on a
better
second, let me
place for
just-
most users, and should
This is the part of the game that you don't know. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you think you know this part of the game. It presents itself as you know this part of the game. And then as of late in this world, we in this mind where we think we just, everybody thinks they know it all. We don't know it all. That's why I wanted to post this actual Senate hearing. That's why I did this today. Because generally I have other shit to do, man. You know what I'm saying? But I had to post this. I have to post this because this is the shit that, you know, on your know-it-all shit, you really don't know what you're talking about this shit. And so when people are telling you that this is what's happening, you snap there like looking at these motherfuckers like they bugging, but people be warning you like, yo, I see this happening. It's happening to me. I'm in that beta test of what it's doing. It's going to happen to you eventually. And now look where we at. And I've been talking about this shit for a solid 5 or 6 years. All right? Like that. Let's get back to it.
Saying, should people have the option of choosing to not be manipulated by their algorithms? I think if we had appropriate oversight, or if we reformed 230 to make Facebook responsible for the consequences of their intentional ranking decisions, I think they would get rid of engagement-based ranking, because it is causing teenagers to be exposed to more anorexia content. It is pulling families apart. And in places like Ethiopia, it's literally fanning ethnic violence. I encourage reform of these platforms, not picking and choosing individual ideas, but instead making the platforms themselves safer, less twitchy, less reactive, less viral, because that's how we scalably solve these problems.
Thank you. Ms. Chair, I would simply say let's get to work. So we got some things we can do here. Thanks.
I agree. Thank you. Senator Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member. Thank you for your courage in coming forward. Was there a particular moment when you came to the conclusion that reform from the inside was impossible and that you decided to be a whistleblower?
There was a long series of moments where I became aware that Facebook, when faced with conflicts of interest between its own profits and the common good, public safety, that Facebook consistently chose to prioritize its profits. I think the moment at which I realized we needed to get help from the outside, that the only way these problems would be solved is by solving them together, not solving them alone, was when civic integrity was dissolved following the 2020 election. It really felt like a betrayal of the promises that Facebook had made to people who had sacrificed a great deal to keep the election safe by basically dissolving our community and integrating it in just other parts of the company.
And when I know their response is that they've sort of distributed the duties.
Yeah.
That's an excuse, right?
I cannot see into the hearts of other men, and I don't know what their
Well, let me say it
motivations
this
are.
way. It won't work, right?
And I can tell you that when I left the company, so the people who I worked with were disproportionately, maybe 75% of my pod of 7 people. Those are product managers, program managers. Most of them had come from civic integrity. All of us left the inauthentic behavior pod, either for other parts of the company or the company entirely over the same 6-week period of time. So 6 months after the reorganization, we had clearly lost faith that those changes were coming.
You said in your opening statement that they know how to make Facebook and Instagram safer. So, thought experiment. You are now the chief executive officer and chairman of the company. What changes would you immediately institute?
I would immediately establish a policy of how to share information and research from inside the company with appropriate oversight bodies like Congress. I would give proposed legislation to Congress saying, here's what an effective oversight agency would look like. I would actively engage with academics to make sure that people who are confirming are Facebook's marketing message is true have the information they need to confirm these things. And I would immediately implement the, quote, soft interventions that were identified to protect the 2020 election. So that's things like requiring someone to click on a link before resharing it, because other companies like Twitter have found that that significantly reduces misinformation. No one is censored by being forced to click on a link before resharing it.
Thank you. I want to pivot back to Instagram's targeting of kids. We all know that they announced a pause, but that reminds me of what they announced when they were going to issue a digital currency. And they got beat up by the US Senate Banking Committee, and they said, never mind. And now they're coming back around hoping that nobody notices that they are going to try to issue a currency. Now, let's set aside for the moment the sort of the business model, which appears to be gobble up everything, do everything. That's the growth strategy. Do you believe that they're actually going to discontinue Instagram Kids, or are they just waiting for the dust to settle?
I would be sincerely surprised if they do not continue working on Instagram Kids, and I would be amazed if a year from now we don't have this conversation again.
Why?
Facebook understands that if they want to continue to grow, they have to find new users. They have to make sure that the next generation is just as engaged with Instagram as the current one. And the way they'll do that is by making sure that children establish habits before they have good self-regulation.
By hooking kids.
By hooking kids. I would like to emphasize one of the documents that we sent in on problematic use examined the rates of problematic use by age, and that peaked with 14-year-olds. It's just like cigarettes. Teenagers don't have good self-regulation. They say explicitly, I feel bad when I use Instagram, and yet I can't stop. We need to protect the kids.
Just my final question. I have a long list of misstatements, misdirections, and outright lies from the company. I don't have the time to read them, but you're as intimate with all of these deceptions as I am, so I will just jump to the end. If you were a member of this panel, would you believe what Facebook is saying?
I would not believe. Facebook has not earned our right to just have blind trust in them. Trust is, last week, one of the most beautiful things that I heard on the committee was trust is earned, and Facebook has not earned our trust.
Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Schatz. Senator Moran, and then we've been joined by the chair, Senator Cantwell. She'll be next. We're going to break at about 11:30, if that's okay, because we have a vote. Okay. And then we'll reconvene.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. The conversation so far reminds me that you and I ought to resolve our differences and introduce legislation. So as Senator Thune said, let's go to work.
Our differences are very minor, or they seem very minor in the face of the revelations that we've now seen, so I'm hoping we can move forward, Senator Moran.
I share that view, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Thank you very much for your testimony. What examples do you know? We've talked about particularly children, teenage girls specifically, but what other examples do you know about where Facebook or Instagram knew its decisions would be harmful to its users, but still proceeded with the plan and executed those harmful behavior?
Facebook's internal research is aware that there are a variety of problems facing children on Instagram that are, they know that severe harm is happening to children. For example, in the case of bullying, Facebook knows that Instagram dramatically changes the experience of high school. So when we were in high school, or when I was in high school, most kids
You
have...
looked at me and changed your wording.
Sorry. When I was in high school, most kids have positive home lives. Like, it doesn't matter how bad it is at school. Kids can go home and reset for 16 hours. Kids who are bullied on Instagram, the bullying follows them home. It follows them into their bedrooms. The last thing they see before they go to bed at night is someone being cruel to them, or the first thing they see in the morning is someone being cruel to them. Kids are learning that their own friends, like people who they care about them, are cruel to them. Like, think about how that's going to impact their domestic relationships when they become 20-somethings or 30-somethings, to believe that people who care about you are mean to you. Facebook knows that parents today, because they didn't experience these things, they never experienced this addictive experience with a piece of technology, they give their children bad advice. They say things like, why don't you just stop using it? And so that Facebook's own research is aware that children express feelings of loneliness and struggling with these things because they can't even get support from their own parents. I don't understand how Facebook can know all these things and not escalate it to someone like Congress for help and support in navigating these problems.
Let me ask the question in a broader way. Besides teenagers or besides girls or besides youth, are there other practices at Facebook or Instagram that are known to be harmful but yet are pursued?
Facebook is aware that choices it made in establishing like meaningful social interactions, so engagement-based ranking that didn't care if you bullied someone or committed hate speech in the comments, that was meaningful. They know that that change directly changed publishers' behavior, that companies like BuzzFeed wrote in and said, the content is most successful on our platform is some of the content we're most ashamed of. You have a problem with your ranking, and they did nothing. They know that politicians are being forced to take positions they know their own constituents don't like or approve of because those are the ones that get distributed on Facebook. That's a huge, huge negative impact. Facebook also knows that they have admitted in public that engagement-based ranking is dangerous without integrity and security systems, but then not rolled out those integrity and security systems to most of the languages in the world. And that's what's causing things like ethnic violence in Ethiopia.
Thank you for your answer. What is the magnitude of Facebook's revenues or profits that come from the sale of user data?
Oh, I'm sorry, I've never worked on that. I'm not aware.
Thank you. What regulations or legal actions by Congress or by administrative action do you think would have the most consequence or would be feared most by Facebook, Instagram, or allied companies?
I strongly encourage reforming Section 230 to exempt decisions about algorithms, right? So modifying 230 around content, I think has it's very complicated because user-generated content is something that companies have less control over. They have 100% control over their algorithms. And Facebook should not get a free pass on choices it makes to prioritize growth and virality and reactiveness over public safety. They shouldn't get a free pass on that because they're paying for their profits right now with our safety. So I strongly encourage reform of 230 in that way. I also believe there needs to be a dedicated oversight body because right now the only people in the world who are trained
I need a rewind
to analyze
on
these
that.
experiments,
I wish I could get a rewind on that right now.
are people who
You heard?
grew up inside of Facebook.
Again, they have
or
total
Pinterest or another
control
social media
of
company.
their algorithm.
And there needs to be a regulatory
You know what I'm saying?
home
Like,
where
yo, this
someone
is
like
not
me
a
could do a
game.
tour of duty after working at a place like this and have a place to work on things like regulation, to bring that information out to the oversight boards that have the right to do oversight.
A regulatory agency within the federal government.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman.
Senator Cantwell.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Senator Moran.
Thank you for holding this hearing, and I think my colleagues have brought up a lot of important issues, and so I think I just want to continue on that vein. First of all, the Privacy Act that I introduced along with several of my colleagues actually does have FTC oversight of algorithm transparency. In some instances, I'd hope you'd take a look at that and tell us what other areas you think we should add to that level of transparency. But clearly that's the issue at hand here, I think, in your coming forward, so thank you again for your willingness to do that. The documentation that you say now exists is the level of transparency about what's going on. Again, for your willingness to do that. Able to see. The documentation that you say now exists, that you say has gone up to the highest level of transparency about what's going on. Is that they purposely knew the documentation your information exists, you say is up to the highest level of transparency about what's going on. Is that they presented with information the documentation your information exists, you say is up to the highest level of transparency knowing that it was this choice. You could continue this wrong-headed information, hate information about the Rohingya, or you could continue to get higher click-through rates. And I know you said you don't know about profits, but I'm pretty sure you know that on a page.
Yeah.
If you click through that next page, I'm pretty sure there's a lot more ad revenue than if you didn't click through. So you're saying that documents exist, that at the highest level at Facebook, you had information discussing these two choices, and that people chose, even though they knew that it was misinformation and hurtful and maybe even causing people lives, they continued to choose profit.
We have submitted documents to Congress outlining, Mark Zuckerberg was directly presented with a list of, quote, soft interventions. So a hard intervention is like taking a piece of content off Facebook, taking a user off Facebook. Soft interventions are about making slightly different choices to make the platform less viral, less twitchy. Mark was presented with these options and chose to not remove downstream MSI in April of 2020, even though even just isolated in at-risk countries, that's countries at risk of violence, if it had any impact on the overall MSI metric. So he chose—
Which in translation means less money.
Yeah, he said—
Right? Was there another reason given why they would do it other than they thought it would really affect their numbers?
I don't know for certain. Like Jeff Horowitz, the reporter for the Wall Street Journal, and I struggled with this because we sat there and read these minutes and we're like, how is this possible? Like, we've just read 100 pages on how downstream MSI expands hate speech, misinformation, violence inciting content, graphic violent content. Why wouldn't you get rid of this? And the best theory that we've come up with, and I want to emphasize this is just our interpretation on it, is people's bonuses are tied to MSI. Right? Like people stay or leave the company based on what they get paid. And like, if you hurt MSI, a bunch of people weren't gonna get their bonuses.
So you're saying that this practice even still continues today? Like, we're still in this environment? I'm personally very frustrated by this because we presented information to Facebook from one of my own constituents in 2018 talking about this issue with the Rohingya, pleading with the company. Yeah. We pleaded with the company, and they continue to not address this issue. Now, you're pointing out that these same algorithms are being used, and they know darn well in Ethiopia that it's causing and inciting violence. And again, they are still today choosing profit over taking this information down. Is that correct?
When rioting began in the United States in the summer of last year, they turned off downstream MSI only for when they detected content was health content, which is probably COVID, and civic content. But Facebook's own algorithms are bad at finding this content. It's still in the raw form for 80, 90% of even that sensitive content. In countries where they don't have integrity systems in the local language, and in the case of Ethiopia, there are 100 million people in Ethiopia in 6 languages. Facebook only supports 2 of those languages for integrity systems. This strategy of focusing on language-specific, content-specific systems, AI to save us, is doomed to fail.
I need to get to one of them. First of all, I'm sending a letter to Facebook today. They better not delete any information as it relates to the Rohingya or investigations about how they proceeded on this, particularly in light of your information or the documents. But aren't we also now talking about advertising fraud? Aren't you selling something to advertisers that's not really what they're getting? We know about this because of the newspaper issues. We're trying to say that journalism that basically has to meet a different standard, a public interest standard, that basically is out there basically proving every day, or they can be sued. These guys are a social media platform that doesn't have to live with that. And then the consequences, they're telling their advertisers that this was we see it. We see it. People are coming back to the local journalism because they're like, we want to be with a trusted brand. We don't want to be in, your website. So I think your finding for the SEC is an interesting one, but I think that we also have to look at what are the other issues here. And one of them is, did they defraud advertisers and telling them this was the advertising content that you were going to be advertised again, when in reality it was something different. It was based on a different model.
We have multiple examples of question and answers for the advertising staff, the sales staff, where advertisers say after the riots last summer, were asked, should we come back to Facebook? Or after the insurrection, like, should we come back to Facebook? And Facebook said in their talking points that they gave to advertisers, we're doing everything in our power to make this safer, or we take down all the hate speech when we find it. But Facebook's own
and that was not true.
That was not true. They get 3 to 5% of hate speech.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Senator Cantwell. And if you want to make your letter available to other members of the committee, I'd be glad to join you myself.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
thank you for suggesting it.
Thank you.
Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Haugen, for joining us this week. It's very, very helpful. We're grateful that you're willing to make yourself available. Last week, we had another witness from Facebook, Ms. Davis. She came and she testified before this committee, and she focused on, among other things, the extent to which Facebook targets ads to children, including ads that are either sexually suggestive or geared toward adult-themed products or themes in general. Now, while I appreciated her willingness to be here, I didn't get the clearest answers in response to some of those questions. And so I'm hoping that you can help shed some light on some of those issues related to Facebook's advertising processes here today. As we get into this, I want to first read you a quote that I got from Ms. Davis last week. Here's what she said during her questioning. Quote, "When we do ads to young people, there are only 3 things that an advertiser can target around: age, gender, location. We also prohibit certain ads to young people, including weight loss ads. We don't allow tobacco ads at all, meaning to young people. We don't allow them to children. We don't allow them to minors," close quote. Now, since that exchange happened last week, there are a number of individuals and groups, including a group called the Technology Transparency Project, or TTP, that have indicated that that part of her testimony was inaccurate, that it was false. TTP noted that TTP had conducted an experiment just last month, and their goal was to run a series of ads that would be targeted to children ages 13 to 17, to users in the United States. Now, I want to emphasize that TTP didn't end up running these ads. They stopped them from being distributed to users. But Facebook did, in fact, approve them. And as I understand it, Facebook approved them for an audience of up to 9.1 million users, all of whom were teens. So I brought a few of these to show you today. This is the first one I wanted to showcase. This first one has a colorful graphic encouraging kids to, quote, "throw a Skittles party like no other," which, as the graphic indicates, and as the slang jargon also independently suggests, this involves kids getting together randomly to abuse prescription drugs. The second graphic displays an anti-tip. That is, a tip specifically designed to encourage and promote anorexia. And it's on there. Now, the language, the anti-tip itself, independently promotes that. The ad also promotes it, insofar as it was suggesting these are images you ought to look at when you need motivation to be more anorexic, I guess you could say. Now, the third one invites children to find their partner online and to make a love connection. You look lonely, find your partner now to make a love connection. Now look, it'd be an entirely different kettle of fish if this were targeted to an adult audience. It is not. It's targeted to 13 to 17-year-olds. Now, obviously, I don't support, and TDP does not support these messages, particularly when targeted to impressionable children. And again, just to be clear, TDP did not end up pushing the ads out after receiving Facebook's approval. But it did, in fact, receive Facebook's approval. So I think this says something. One could argue that it proves that Facebook is allowing and perhaps facilitating the targeting of harmful adult-themed ads to our nation's children. So could you please explain to me, Ms. Haugen, how these ads with a target audience of 13 to 17-year-old children, how would they possibly be approved by Facebook? And is AI involved in that?
I did not work directly on the ad approval system. What was resonant for me about your testimony is Facebook has a deep focus on scale. So scale is, can we do things very cheaply for a huge number of people, which is part of why they rely on AI so much. It is very possible that none of those ads were seen by a human. And the reality is that we've seen from repeated documents within my disclosures is that Facebook's AI systems only catch a very tiny minority of offending content. And best case scenario, in the case of something like hate speech, at most they will ever get 10 to 20%. In the case of children, that means drug paraphernalia ads like that. It's likely if they rely on computers and not humans, they will also likely never get more than 10 to 20% of those ads.
Understood. Mr. Chairman, I've got one minor follow-up question. It should be easy to answer.
Go ahead.
So, while Facebook may claim that it only targets ads based on age, gender, and location, even though these things seem to counteract that, but let's set that aside for a minute, and that they're not basing ads based on specific interest categories. Does Facebook still collect interest category data on teenagers, even if they aren't at that moment targeting ads at teens based on those interest categories?
I think it's very important to differentiate between what targeting are advertisers allowed to specify and what targeting Facebook may learn for an ad. Let's imagine you had some text on an ad. It would likely extract out features that it thought was relevant for that ad. For example, in the case of something about partying, it would learn partying is a concept. I'm very suspicious that personalized ads are still not being delivered to teenagers on Instagram because the algorithms learn correlations. They learn interactions where your party ad may still go to kids interested in partying because Facebook is almost certainly has a ranking model in the background that it says this person wants more party-related content.
Interesting. Thank you. That's very helpful. And what that suggests to me is that while they're saying they're not targeting teens with those ads, the algorithm might do some of that work for them, which might explain why they collect the data even while claiming that they're not targeting those ads in that way.
I can't speak to whether or not that's the intention, but the reality is it's very, very, very difficult to understand these algorithms today. And over and over and over again, we saw these biases the algorithms unintentionally learn. And so, yeah, it's very hard to disentangle out these factors as long as you have engagement-based ranking.
Thank you, Ms. Haugen.
Thank you very much, Senator Lee. Senator Markey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, very much. Thank you, Ms. Haugen. You are a 21st century American hero, warning our country of the danger for young people, for our democracy, and our nation owes you just a huge debt of gratitude for the courage you're showing here today, so thank you. Ms. Haugen, do you agree that Facebook actively seeks to attract children and teens onto its platforms?
And Facebook actively markets to children, or markets to children under the age of 18 to get on Instagram, and definitely targets children as young as 8 to be on in Messenger Kids.
An internal Facebook document from 2020 that you revealed reads, "Why do we care about tweens? They are a valuable but untapped audience." So Facebook only cares about children to the extent that they are of monetary value. Last week, Facebook's global head of safety, Antigone Davis, told me that Facebook does not allow targeting of certain harmful content to teens. Ms. Davis stated, "We don't allow weight loss ads to be shown to people under the age of 18. Yet, a recent study found that Facebook permitted targeting of teens as young as 13 with ads that showed a young woman's thin waist promoting websites that glorify anorexia." Ms. Haugen, based on your time at Facebook, do you think Facebook is telling the truth?
I think Facebook has focused on scale over safety, and it is likely that they are using artificial intelligence to try to identify harmful ads without allowing the public oversight to see what is the actual effectiveness of those safety systems.
You unearthed Facebook's research about its harm to teens. Did you raise this issue with your supervisors?
I did not work directly on anything involving teen mental health. This research was freely available to anyone in the company.
Mr. Davis testified last week, quote, "We don't allow tobacco ads at all. We don't allow them to children either. We don't allow alcohol ads to minors. However, researchers also found that Facebook does allow targeting of teens with ads on vaping." Ms. Haugen, based on your time at Facebook, do you think Facebook is telling the truth?
I do not have context on that issue. I assume that if they are using artificial intelligence to catch those vape ads, unquestionably ads are making its way through.
Okay. So from my perspective, listening to you and your incredibly courageous revelations time and time again, Facebook says one thing and does another. Time and time again, Facebook fails to abide by the commitments that they had made. Time and time again, Facebook lies about what they are doing. Yesterday, Facebook had a platform outage, but for years it has had a principles outage. Its only real principle is profit. Facebook's platforms are not safe for young people. As you said, Facebook is like big tobacco, enticing young kids with that first cigarette, that first social media account designed to hook kids as users for life. Ms. Haugen, your whistleblowing shows that Facebook uses harmful features that quantify popularity, push manipulative influencer marketing, amplify harmful content to teens. And last week in this committee, Facebook wouldn't even commit to not using these features on 10-year-olds. Facebook is built on computer codes of misconduct. Senator Blumenthal and I have introduced the Kids Internet Design and Safety Act, the KIDS Act. You have asked us to act as a committee. And Facebook has scores of lobbyists in the city right now coming in right after this hearing to tell us we can't act. And they've been successful for a decade in blocking this committee from acting. So let me ask you a question. The Kids Internet Design and Safety Act, or the KIDS Act, here's what the legislation does. It includes outright bans on children's app features that, one, quantify popularity with likes and follower counts, promotes promotes influencer marketing, and three, that amplifies toxic posts, and that it would prohibit Facebook from using its algorithms to promote toxic posts. Should we pass that legislation?
I strongly encourage reforms that push us towards human-scale social media and not computer-driven social media. Those amplification harms are caused by computers choosing what's important to us, not our friends and family. And I encourage any system that children are exposed to not use amplification systems.
So you agree that Congress has to enact these special protections for children and teens that stop social media companies from manipulating young users and threatening their well-being, to stop using its algorithm to harm kids. You agree with that?
I do believe Congress must act to protect children.
And children and teens also need a privacy online Bill of Rights. I'm the author of the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act of 1998. But it's only for kids under 13 because the industry stopped me from making it age 16 in 1998 because it was already their business model. But we need to update that law for the 21st century. Tell me if this should pass. One, create an online eraser button so that young users can tell websites to delete the data they've collected about them. Two, give young teens under the age of 16 and their parents control of their information. And three, ban targeted ads to children.
I support all those actions.
Thank you. And finally, I've also introduced the Algorithmic Justice and Online Platform Transparency Act, which would, one, open the hood on Facebook and big tech's algorithms so we know how Facebook is using our data to decide what content we see, and two, ban discriminatory algorithms that harm vulnerable populations online, like showing employment and housing ads to white people, but not to black people in our country. Should Congress pass that bill?
Algorithmic bias issues are a major issue for our democracy. During my time at Pinterest, I became very aware of the challenges of, like I mentioned before, it's difficult for us to understand how these algorithms actually act and perform. Facebook is aware of complaints today by people like African Americans saying that Reels doesn't give African Americans the same distribution as white people. And until we have transparency and our ability to confirm ourselves that Facebook's marketing messages are true, we will not have a system that is compatible with democracy.
So, I thank Senator Lee. I agree with you and your line of questions. I wrote Facebook asking them to explain that discrepancy because Facebook, I think, is lying about targeting 13 to 15-year-olds. So here's my message for Mark Zuckerberg. Your time of invading our privacy, promoting toxic content, and preying on children and teens is over. Congress will be taking action. You can work with us or not work with us, but we will not allow your company to harm our children and our families and our democracy any longer. Thank you, Ms. Hogan. We will act.
Thanks, Senator Markey. We're going to turn to Senator Blackburn, and then we will take a break. I know that there's some interest in another round of questions. Maybe, maybe we'll turn to Senator Lujan for his questions before.
Well, we've got Cruz and Scott.
And we have others, so we'll come back after the.
Mr. Chairman? I have to go to sit in the chair starting at noon today.
Why don't we turn to, you had one question?
I do. I have one question. This relates to what Mr. Markey was asking. Does Facebook ever employ child psychologists or mental health professionals to deal with these children online issues that we're discussing?
Facebook has many researchers with PhDs. I assume some of them are, I know that some have psychology degrees. I'm not sure if they are child specialists. Facebook also works with external agencies that are specialists at children's rights online.
Senator Lujan, and then at the conclusion of Senator Lujan's questions, we'll take a break. We'll come back at noon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate the indulgence of the committee. Ms. Hogan, last week, the committee heard directly from Ms. Davis, the global head of safety for Facebook. During the hearing, the company contested their own internal research as if it does not exist. Yes or no, does Facebook have internal research indicating that Instagram harms teens, particularly harming perceptions of body image, which disproportionately affects young women?
Yes, Facebook has extensive research on the impacts of its products on teenagers, including young women.
Thank you for confirming these reports. Last week, I requested Facebook make the basis of this research the data set minus any personally identifiable information available to this committee. Do you believe it is important for transparency and safety that Facebook release the basis of this internal research, the core data set, to allow for independent analysis?
I believe it is vitally important for our democracy that we establish mechanisms where Facebook's internal research must be disclosed to the public on a regular basis, and that we need to have privacy-sensitive data sets that allow independent researchers to confirm whether or not Facebook's marketing messages are actually true.
Beyond this particular research, should Facebook make its internal primary research not just secondary slide decks of cherry-picked data, but the underlying data public by default? Can this be done in a way that respects user privacy?
I believe in collaboration with academics and other researchers that we can develop privacy-conscious ways of exposing radically more data that is available today. It is important for our ability to understand how algorithms work, how Facebook shapes the information we get to see, that we have these data sets be publicly available for scrutiny.
Is Facebook capable of making the right decision here on its own, or is regulation needed to create real transparency at Facebook?
Until incentives change at Facebook, we should not expect Facebook to change. We need action from Congress.
Last week, I asked Ms. Davis about shadow profiles for children on the site, and she answered that no data is ever collected on children under 13 because they are not allowed to make accounts. This tactfully ignores the issue. Facebook knows children use their platform. However, instead of seeing this as a problem to be solved, Facebook views this as a business opportunity. Yes or no, does Facebook conduct research on children under 13, examining the business opportunities of connecting these young children to Facebook's products?
I want to emphasize how vital it is that Facebook should have to publish the mechanisms by which it tries to detect these children, because they are on the platform in far greater numbers than anyone is aware. I do believe that, or I am aware that Facebook is doing research on children under the age of 13, and those studies are included in my disclosure.
You have shared your concerns about how senior management at Facebook has continuously prioritized revenue over potential user harm and safety. And I have a few questions on Facebook's decision making.
If you hear
Last
this,
week I asked Ms. Davis, quote, has Facebook ever found a change to its platform would potentially inflict harm on users? But Facebook moved forward because the change would also grow users or increase revenue.
Hold on,
Ms. Davis said in response, quote, it's not been my experience at all at Facebook. That's just not how we would approach it.
Things.
Yes or no, has Facebook ever found a feature on its platform harmed its users, but the feature moved forward because...
Then far as everybody concerned, you know, I've got a motivation to say these things. Hold on, I'm just trying to make sure that I ain't talking over. All right, there it is. Yeah. So I'm saying, listen, share this shit. Tag people. You know what I'm saying? Make a post on Instagram and be like, yo, come and check out Cool Kim's live. He's streaming some ill shit that you need to see. Why? Because, yo, that's the only way. Like, yo, I'm on Facebook right now streaming this as well. That's why it looks like it looks the way it looks on Instagram. I'm on Facebook right now sharing this, and there's literally nobody watching it. I have thousands of followers. How is nobody watching it? I'm literally directly sharing it with people. Nobody seeing it? Talk to me, man. Like, I can't be bugging like this. They can't do anything to her. Nothing's gonna happen to her. Hold up, I just gotta do something. They can't do nothing to her because they can't do nothing to her because simply this. She been in front of the Senate now. They can't do nothing, so I'm talking to my Instagram people that is actually able to see it. You understand what I'm saying? Now, obviously, my Facebook people ain't seen it. They can't do nothing to the girl because, you know, you seeing her on TV. She's good. See if it's on Facebook. You can see it under the CollabxLab thing or directly on my profile. I'm going to see if anybody see it. Think, Juice. You know what I'm saying? Speaking of which, I got 6 days to get my shit together because we're going to be shooting a video for Just Begun. You know what I'm saying? Let me get a hashtag Just Begun in the joint real quick. You understand what I'm saying? You know, we ain't forgetting what we about out here. You know what I'm saying? But shout out to B-Boy Juice. We're going to do our thing. You know what I'm saying? But let's get back to it. If you want it, Facebook, share it in your groups. Share it with groups. You know, I want you to share and see for yourself. Experience how nobody watches it when you share it. People watch all kind of fuckery on Facebook and Instagram. It's not an issue of whether it's good enough or not good enough. That's not how it works. This shit that ain't even no good on national television, family. Trust me, man. See for yourself. Share this shit. Share this shit. And see what happens. All right, taking a break, you know what I'm saying?
The Senate subcommittee
So
taking a break. You are watching a special report from the newsroom of the Washington Post. I'm Libby Casey. We heard the former Facebook product manager, Frances Haugen, allege that Facebook deliberately hid information about the dangers of their products, especially on teens. Subcommittee Chairman Senator Richard Blumenthal said this. big tech now faces that
You know
big
your
tobacco
brother ain't gonna just lie to you for
jaw-dropping
general
moment of
purposes,
truth.
just be saying some
My
off-the-wall
guests, Rhonda
shit
Colvin on Capitol Hill and
to
James
appease
Homan
my,
in the
my
Washington
mind
Post
and all that
studio.
kind of fool crap. That's
Rhonda,
not my
let's
bill.
go to you first
But I'm
to talk
telling you,
about this
I've been
hearing.
saying this
You know,
for
we
years.
previewed
I've been saying this for years. Now let me talk to y'all about this for a second as they go to their break and all like that. I'm gonna dead it out in a little while, but I'm saying, listen. All right, so one, you have to understand that an algorithm is a program. A program is programmed by a programmer. And if the programmer has the intent or a ulterior motive or a bias, that bias will be programmed into the program. Point blank. It's nothing to that. Like, it's not, you understand? Like, you got mad examples of it in your everyday life that you don't even realize it happens to you. You got mad examples of this. Go to the airport. Go to your average, what you call it, public restroom. Put your hand by the thing to get it to work. And you notice it don't work for you like it worked for white people. Shit wasn't calibrated for black skin. That's how it's been. This is not like, I'm not making this stuff up. John Q, what up? I'm on Facebook right now with this live. There my dude Juice right there. You know what I mean? It's on the low. How is what? Only reason why Juice could see it because he went and sorted it out. It's on the low. How I'm on Instagram and only 5 people are seeing this. How we on Facebook and literally only one person on here is my bro Juice. And the only reason why he's seeing it there is because he sorted out, like I just said. I'm not on here bugging. I take this shit mad personal because, one, the impact it has on my career. And I'm trying to explain to y'all. You know, when you talk about, when I'm saying this to y'all, when I'm expressing these concerns, right? Y'all think I'm over here on some bitter artist type of time. That's not what this is. I am telling you that your brother has a unique experience, that he can tell you something from his unique experience. But you overlaying this unique experience with your prejudice because a lot of y'all feel like because, you know, somebody rap or something like that, they supposed to be rich and whatever bad happened to them is on they. That's not me. I don't have that experience. I didn't have the fortune of success. Why? Because in my entire career, I was too busy keeping it real. And if I ain't talking about that stupid keeping it real shit, I was too busy saying real shit about real things, you understand, from an honest perspective. From the grain, from the UMCs, blue cheese, one to grow on. Don't sit beside the shoreline thinking about your woes. Read the rips and waves, identify your foes. That song was that album, that group was beloved by college students, intelligent black people. Soon as that shit came out, next thing you know, it was a problem. Next thing you know, we was getting mad heat. Next thing you know, it's happy rap. You think that this is the beginning of this shit that just Instagram figured out, Facebook figured out that y'all gravitate to negativity over positivity? That if they package negativity to you, that you gonna connect to that quicker? That you're gonna be engaging that? You think they're the first ones to figure it out, or you don't think that the radio figured it out? You don't think that these record labels figured it out? You don't think that MTV figured it out? You don't think that the Source figured it out? That whole East Coast, West Coast shit beef, that shit was contrived by the Source and the Vibe. You understand what I'm saying? I'm here to tell y'all the truth. Shout out to my dude Brian Smith. Shout out to Morgan Lee. You know what I'm saying? Now we getting 1 or 2 people to show something because Now the damn thing ain't playing right now. Now I'm just building, but that's all right. Cause I'm gonna keep building, and when this shit come back on, I'm gonna let it rock again. Shout out to everybody on Instagram. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Everybody shouting, coming on. Make some noise. Shout yourself out. Let me see you. Let me talk to y'all, man. So I'm telling you, there's gonna be some of you that will say, well, yo, fam, they let this one say these kind of things. They let that one say these kind of things. So why would you think that it's you? One, because I was the first. How do I know this? I'm the first. All right, if you know me, then you know that I went under the name NY Oil for a few years. Phone Designs, what up, yo? Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to check out your designs and stuff, man. See what you up to. If you know me, you know I went by the name NY Oil. You know that I came out with a song called Y'all Should All Get Lynched. The hardest song in the history of hip-hop. There is no song harder than Y'all Should All Get Lynched. There will never be a song as hard as Y'all Should All Get Lynched. All right? I had to make up a name and hide my image because if I'd have presented it as Cool Kim, y'all wouldn't have believed it. Y'all would have said, oh, nah, he just... Listen to what I'm telling you, though. I'm not just getting on a personal rant, but I'm trying to explain something that I've experienced. You did? I used to get... When I used to make phone calls, you could hear all kind of stuff going on. You could hear, the other day, just so to show you I'm not bugging, the other day, and I could do it for you right now, but I can't because I'm streaming. But I could show you how I used to, I could go to SBA right now. You could call it SBA. You could hear the person that's listening in, the person that's supposed to listen into the conversation, that monitors the conversation. You could hear that person pick up before the person that's supposed to pick up because they so swamped. I'm telling you, this is not like, yo, listen. I don't get into conspiracy theories. I think a lot of them dudes be like cornballs and nerds and shit. And a lot of these dudes just be like on some old, they be wanting to, like fairy tales, they be wanting to tell themselves. I get it, you know what I'm saying? So I'm so not trying to sell that shit to y'all. I promise you, I'm not on that vibes at all. I'm not on that time. I'm telling you practical shit. You understand? Listen. When I tell you I'm the first, or one of the first, let me say. Remember, Y'all Should All Get Lynched. I produced, there was a live action type of video where I took clips of all the different rappers. Bam, 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 bam. Y'all Should All Get Lynched is the first video to be banned on Instagram. First music video. I'll even go. It's first video. This is not conjecture. This is fact. First video to get banned on YouTube. I was one of the first artists to go viral. It was me and Soulja Boy. See, people don't know this. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if it's but right now I'm monitoring the audio. My dude Juice was asking if the audio was coming out. I'm monitoring my audio via Instagram, so it sounds like I'm doing all right. My stream is good. I can't do it on my Facebook only because it'll come through this sound. You'll start clashing. So now I'm telling you this, right? Now, first person to be banned. From that point, right, I was still good because my other songs was doing thing, catching What Up My Wigger. But then when I did, and I'm going to tell you when it hit, and this is why I be taking certain shit mad personal. When I did this song, You're a Queen, all right, with a chorus, somebody called you a bitch and you believe that. Somebody called you a hoe and you believe that. But when I told you that you was a queen, you couldn't conceive it, couldn't receive it, wasn't trying to see that. Now I'ma fix that, mama, because that's my fault. That song was built to create the conversation between black men and women. Right? I noticed it, and I did it slick because I have always understood the nature of going viral. I've always understood the nature of being having attention. I've always been popular. I was what people would consider a geek to the extent that I used to I wasn't on some nigga shit. I was on some play with toys and ride my bike and go on adventures and build go-kart shit. Like, I was on that shit. I wasn't on the stand on the block and, you know what I'm saying, try to find, you know, smoke weed all day. Like, that wasn't my vibes. I know what it is to be, like, someone that's not considered popular or not considered cool and still knew how to dominate so well because I'm an entertainer above all else all my life. So I knew how to I always know how to get attention on myself. I always know how to do that. This is the one instance in life where I've experienced such pushback that it's unimaginable. I can't even explain to y'all. You know what I'm saying? So when people talking to me about these algorithms, I'm telling you, yo fam, the way I did the video was that I had mad of the Queen send pictures of themselves. You understand? Mad Queen, yo, send me your pictures, Queen, just showing beautiful moments of the sisters. And that song, man, the song speak, like, anybody that hear my rhymes know I don't be rhyming I don't just be laying around with my rhymes, yo. I don't just be throwing words together. Everything I say makes sense. I'm not like other rappers. These niggas don't rhyme like me. Because I actually make actual sense. No line is wasted with me. Especially as NY Oil. I'm telling y'all. This shit would have this would have had a conversation. We wouldn't be where we at right now if that song had got the shine it was supposed to get. And I'm not saying it like people ain't fuck with it. I'm telling you that this algorithm that I've been shadow banned for years. And I kept telling people this is happening to me. And people was looking at me like I'm bugging or like I'm not making dope content. Like I don't know how, like I don't got #1 records. Like I don't know how to make #1 records. What the fuck is y'all talking about? Like I don't know how to fucking entertain. Like I ain't perform on Soul Train and every fucking other show and body this shit. What are you talking about? Like I'm not one of the only rappers, there's only 2 rappers in the world that holds this distinction. That being be able to totally recreate themselves. And no one realized one is the other. Only thing is the difference between me and MF Doom is that people that for the longest did not know that Kool Kim was NY Oil. And still was a legend. I'm a legend on 2 levels. You think I don't know how to do this shit? You think I'm gonna just be in here fucking bugging? Or you think I'm gonna be on here whining and complaining? Fuck is you talking about? I told y'all niggas this shit. And I'm tight. You know why I'm tight? Because I told y'all niggas this shit trying to warn y'all. That's how it worked. They beta test shit. You should know these terms now. They beta test shit to see how it worked. Will it work? Will it work against y'all? Will you catch this shit? And it goes in state. Check it out. This is how it works. So let's say I'm looking at my IG, right? And let's look at like my sister China Tanya on here. You know what I'm saying? And let's say China come on and she say, yo, you know, so-and-so, me too. So-and-so, this happened to me. She gets, you know what I'm saying? So this need to be repressed by the powers that be. You know what I mean? So we gonna marginalize her shit to decrease her reach, first off. So not enough people's gonna see it that anybody can say, yo, damn, what China said, real. Oh shit, yeah, I've been through some shit like that. Or, yo, that motherfucker did that shit to me too, word up. They're gonna limit that shit, right? Because they don't want that person to catch no heat. You know what I'm saying? I'm just using China just, because that's the first name I seen. You know what I'm saying? Then, when they do that, right, it subtly undermines what she said. Now, check this out, though. Here's where it gets crazy. The people, you, me, us, what we do is we now create an excuse and a narrative. Nah, the reason she's saying that, she just mad because that nigga ain't want to fuck with her. Boom. Now that's the excuse. And since there ain't enough people to refute this shit, right? Because the ones that could are being marginalized as well. What happens is, right? What happens is that narrative takes hold. Now, once the narrative takes hold, they can then, without even doing anything, start to increase the reach of what they're doing. So in the case of social media, once they marginalize the real voices, not the fraud voices, you'll notice the fraud voices shine. The do nothing nigga voices shine. The talking ass niggas shine. The get up, get out, and do something motherfuckers that's actually doing something, marginalized. Is anybody hearing me, or am I fucking bugging? You know what I'm saying? Is anybody hearing it? So now they say, yo, all right, well, you shining. We gonna shut that shit down, and we gonna marginalize you. And when you say something about it, we gonna count on either a bot or somebody that's, whatever agent provocateurs we got in this shit to be able to say, oh, the only reason why you beefing is you just a has-been, you just a bitter MC, you just mad because your shit ain't popping, you just this and that. Fam, Ice JJ Fish is popping. It don't matter how good or bad a motherfucker is at rhyming or singing or dancing. Your talent has nothing to do with your success in the fucking world. It has nothing to do with it. I know what going viral is. I've gone viral multiple times in my life, yo. Are you serious? You see, what you got to understand about this country, sidebar, what you got to understand about this country and about this world is this. Listen, fam. It goes this way. They sell you the idea that this is a capitalist country, that anybody with a little hard work and determination can succeed to the heights of greatness. And in a way, it is true that, yes, you could do that. It's possible. What's the likelihood? That's another vibe. It gives you that impression. But what really goes on in this country, in this society, is that when you see somebody break through, when you see new wealth, right? Now, yo, check this. Look. When you see that, when somebody gets through, it's an error in the machine. For example, now look at this shit. Now, yo, all the new shit happening right now. Look, all the new shit happening right now. Yeah, my stream is perfectly fine. Meaning that when I'm streaming to y'all right now, I'm telling you, it's perfectly fine. My output is fine. I'm looking at it. You understand? I'm looking at it. Yo, family, I'm trying to tell y'all, man, like, I can only try to expose what I'm seeing. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I can only try, and I've got to use this, I got to use their systems to get this information out. You understand? I'm telling y'all, fam, one thing, y'all, man, y'all gotta understand. I'm not gonna get into a long diatribe because I see that my audio's coming in and out. You see all this shit that they doing. That's why I'm on this fan base thing. It ain't all that. I ain't gonna front like this shit is game tight. It is not. And because it's new still, and your peoples ain't on it, shit type boring, and it's glitchy and all of that. But I'm gonna tell you something. It ain't made with this nefarious situations, and see that there are certain classes of people who are a part of a mindset, be they black or white, you understand? And that they are more interested in furthering a fucked up agenda than they are in seeing good things happen. I'm trying to tell you, every time somebody starts to make some money with something, they hurry up and close the door. I'm trying to tell you, Hen. I told you as soon as I said something. Not only did it shut down, now we having congressional hearings. You would think I know something. You would think I know more than I lead on, huh? You would think maybe I might be intelligent and shit. Yo, fam, all I could tell y'all is this, man. I you know. Think about it, yo. And like, yo, anybody watching that's on Facebook, right? Let's have a fun experience. I know Morgan's on there. I know Brian Smith's on there. I don't know if Juice is still on there, but I know Morgan and Brian, y'all are on there. So Morgan and Brian, do me a favor. Share this video, right? And I want you to notice how nobody, share it on your profile, and watch how nobody even reacts to it. Yo, in fact, go to if you want, just for fun, right? If you bang with me on Facebook, right? And you ever shared any of my videos, check the videos of mine that you shared. And you'll notice no one ever responds or even reacts to them. So at that time, son, like, you know, like, yo, even the paranoid motherfucker be, what was it, a broken clock, a broken clock is right at least twice a day, or is twice. Well, you know how that fucking stays. Watch, you talking to? You think I'ma just be just whining and complaining? You talking to a man that's strong, son. I moved to a state I ain't know nobody in. Built a business, ain't even know nothing about the shit before I did it. Been blackballed in this industry for 30 fucking years and still can't be held down. Still come up with dope shit. Still come up with fire. You think I'm gonna be on here whining and complaining? I'm just gonna be saying stuff because I'm angry. I'm just gonna say stuff just out of the blue. Now my fam Morgan shared it, Juice shared it. Let's see if anybody pop on this joint. Because I've shared that joint a few times already on Facebook. Nobody. Look at the screen look on Instagram. Shit going vocal going out on Facebook. Every video I post on Facebook, right? Or excuse me, on Instagram. Look at any of my Instagram videos. They all glitchy at some point. Why is that? Anytime Sadat X say something on Instagram, the beginning of his videos always come in starting low. Yo, I could show you. Let me show you. I'm gonna come out here because I'm looking at my live on thing, but I'm gonna come out here. I'm gonna show you something real quick. Cause I think, like again, I said, cats think I'm on here tripping. I'm not tripping, son. I'm not here to try to make it something that it ain't. Now let me show you this real quick. Hold on. Let me start off with this. Let me see if y'all can see this. I gotta wait till it pop up on my screen. But this shit right here, this the latest wave they got. Yeah, there we go. I'm gonna try to hold this shit steady. Let me hold it up a little higher. What the fuck? What? What? Hold on. Boom. Let me get this back here. Make sure I got this shit right. I typed in whistleblower. You heard? I typed in whistleblower because I wanted to download the video from Instagram. And it say recent posts for whistleblower are hidden because some posts may not follow Instagram's community guidelines. Why would that not follow community guidelines? Why would somebody posting whistleblower? Well, I mean, I could guess somebody could come up with some like blowjob type of thing maybe. But even in that, let me show you what I seen on Instagram the other day. I see this shit all the time on Instagram. You know what I'm saying? Whenever I go on there, if I just be chilling, you know what I'm saying? Especially in the, like, and not even late at night. It'll be midday. You know what I'm saying? Let me show you. Just so, you know what I mean? This would be on Instagram. This would be on Instagram Live, straight like that. Let's see how fast they discovered it. Watch how fast they identified it. I got tits and ass on the camera, but this was on Instagram. You feel me? And this right here, this was shit going on. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, you seeing, this was all 4 people on a live, you know, jilling off. You know what I'm saying? Getting their shit off. You feel me? this was what was going on Instagram Live. You know what I'm saying? This was going on Instagram Live, fam. Like, this what was happening. You understand? This is what they were showing. This was happening. It was rocking for hours. For hours, y'all. For literal hours, they was on, doing their thing. You see what I'm saying? Let me show you. Like, again, like I said, y'all think I be on here off the bug out, or I'm just in here making it like I'm just saying stuff. That's the worst thing you could do. Yo, I think that Dave Chappelle said it well. One of the worst things you could do is call somebody crazy and be dismissive. You know, like, they crazy. He bugging. Oh, he a conspiracy theorist. Oh, he on some bullshit. Yo, you dismiss the motherfucker. Now, whatever they said, you know what I'm saying? That means nothing now. So whatever truth was in what they said, you ain't gonna know. You'll never know. You'll never hear it. You'll never find out. You'll never be able to tap into it. You understand what I'm saying? I'm trying to find this other one real quick. You know what I mean? So that you can see, like, I'm not over here tripping. I hate that shit, man. Like, yo, that shit kills me. You know what I mean? When you telling people like, yo, fam, listen, man, this was happening, something ain't right. You know, I notice when this is happening, you know what I mean? This goes on, and you know what I mean? I try to, this, that, and the third, and I notice this or whatever. And Cassius is up there looking at you like you want some old, like you got to come up with some reason why what you saying ain't true. You know why? Because if you take it as truth, it requires something of you. Let's be real. It requires action from you. If I tell you that this is what's happening, it requires something of you. Other than just sitting on your ass and bearing witness. Here we go. Check this out. I'm going to turn it up. You ain't going to be able to hear it, but so good. Hold on a second. All right, let me bring it back and see if you can see this.
So if you are a fan of my show, Singles on Instagram Live, normally we are live right now in this moment, but tonight Instagram is hating on me. I've learned that I am temporarily blocked from going live for allegedly going against community guidelines. I had no idea this was happening until I tried to go live at the beginning of our show.
This is a chart of the videos that I've released this week on Facebook. When you see the yellow dollar signs, that means it's restricted because it quote unquote goes against community guidelines. But it doesn't go against community guidelines in such a way that they can take it down. So what they will do is almost virtually
I'm gonna put it here.
monetize it. Instagram is sabotaging. Instagram is sabotaging.
The last time I brought this up on TikTok, I got blocked.
Fam, I mean, this is just some of this. Like, I be downloading these shits now when people put, you know what I'm saying? Like, I download these now. Because what come from, one time I was on, we got only person added on Facebook is China Tanya. You understand what I'm saying? Like, this what time we on, y'all. This what time we on right now. Fam, I mean, this is just some of this. Like, we on this time. We on this time. So now we got 3 people watching on Facebook. And that's only because y'all went to go see. Yo, son, y'all worrying about vaccines and shit? Yo, fam, they are culturing you. Yo, they are culturing you to turn you into. They don't need to put no vaccine in you to create what they trying to create. They've been able to control your mind for years, yo. This ain't nothing new. It's nothing new. That's why I'm gonna tell you, man, like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, son, I be trying to do the things I try to do, man, but you can't do this shit in these circumstances. You know what I mean? And like I said, all right, you might get this one and that one doing their thing. These motherfuckers they not no threat. The ones that go viral with that bullshit, they not a threat. And I'm going to prove it to you very simply why none of these motherfuckers is a threat. And that's why they allowed, their content is allowed to be distributed. The reason why is because, you think of this, man. Anybody that know me, that watch any of the things I do, you could go, you on Facebook, you on Instagram, wherever you at, you could go on Facebook, you could look up Blackbird Flies, there's a page for that. You could look up Life After Hip Hop. You could look up Flow, FLO. That was my bar. Dominant G, what up, fam? I was sharing this Senate hearing. You know what I'm saying? To show and prove what I've been saying for years. I'm saying, here's the difference between them and I. That difference is that I actually did shit that changed shit. I did shit that was having a tangible effect. And I was broke. I had nothing, and I did that. So while you sit up there and you think about these ones that go viral, they got bread, they got access, they got opportunity, and have produced nothing. They have done nothing. The ones that you see all the time. Fast talking ass niggas, slick talking ass motherfuckers, all these motherfuckers that you be talking about, right? That you see. Rapping ass motherfuckers that don't got shit of any real value to say, or they on somebody's agenda. Could never produce nothing. Don't never create nothing. They leave nothing. All they do is they get on and talk the same shit all the time. You don't never see them in the ground. They got money. That's why they ass is allowed to shine. If you thinking that I'm just tripping. They allowed to shine because they have money and access. And they go along to get along. You see, like, yo, you ever notice, like, there'll be somebody that be saying, like, a person like me that say the shit that's like, yo, there, kid, you always keep it real. I ain't like I'm be thinking that shit for myself. What am I hearing that shit in my own brain? You think I just be going live, cause motherfucker, niggas be like, yo, son, hit me on the top. Yo, son, that shit you was saying, God, yo, that time you was building on that thing, yo, that. Yo, God, I be watching. Yo, when I started doing CollabxLab, yo, you know how motherfuckers was fucking with me with CollabxLab off the rip? That shit wasn't because of the UMCs, the career was true.
Parents today are not aware of how dangerous Instagram is, and because they themselves did not live through these experiences, they can't coach their kids on basic safety things. And so, at a minimum, Facebook should have to disclose what it knows in that context.
Okay, so we're trying to protect individuals' data that they're gathering, have data privacy, but have transparency in the manner in which the data is used. Can we bridge that gap?
Imagine, I think reasonable people can have a conversation on how many people need to see a piece of content before it's not really private. Like if 100,000 people see something, is it private? If 25,000 people see it, is it private? Just disclosing the most popular content on the platform, including statistics around what factors went into the promotion of that content, would cause radically more transparency than we have today on how Facebook chooses what we get to focus on, how they shape our reality.
Okay, if our focus is protecting the First Amendment and our rights to free speech while very carefully regulating data privacy, I've heard there are a number of things that are being discussed in Congress. Everything from antitrust laws to calling Facebook a utility to the idea that you just
the words
raised
chooses
of
what we focus on,
regulatory
y'all.
Board of some sort.
So when your favorite artist is telling you, like, yo,
to
and you think it ain't possible, but meanwhile you listen to the wackest hip hop that ever was occurred is the mainstream shit. You don't think that they control what you hear?
the face of Facebook, so to speak.
God.
Tell me a little more about how you envision that board working. What is in your mind, based on your understanding of the company and the ill consequences, what is the best approach to bridging the gap between keeping speech free and protecting individual privacy with regard to data?
So I think those issues are, they're independent issues. So we can talk about free speech first, which is having more transparency. Like Facebook has solutions today that are not content-based. And I am a strong advocate for non-content-based solutions because those solutions will also then protect the most vulnerable people in the world. In a place like Ethiopia where they speak 6 languages, if you have something that focuses on good ideas and bad ideas, those systems don't work in diverse places. So investing in non-content-based ways to slow the platform down not only protects our freedom of speech, it protects people's lives. The second question is around privacy, and this question of how can we have oversight and have privacy. There is lots and lots of research on how to abstract data sets, so you're not showing people's names. You might not even be showing the content of their post. You might be showing data that is about the content of their post, but not the post itself. There are many ways to structure these data sets that are privacy conscious, and the fact that Facebook has walled off the ability to see even basic things about how the platform performs, or in the case of their past academic research, releasing inaccurate data, or not being clear about how they pulled that data, is just part of a pattern of behavior of Facebook hiding behind walls and operating in the shadows. And they have far too much power in our society to be allowed to continue to operate that way.
Well, I had heard you make the analogy earlier to the tobacco industry, and I think that that's an appropriate analogy. I really believe we're searching for the best way to address the problem. And I'm not sure that it is the heavy hands, like breaking up companies or calling them a utility, which is why your approach of integrating people who understand the math and the uses of the math with protecting privacy is intriguing to me. So the more information that you can provide to us about how that might work to actually address the problem, I think would be helpful. So in my case, this is an invitation to you to provide to my office or the committee information about how we can get at the root of the problem that you've identified and can document, and save people's privacy. So I extend that invitation to you, and I thank you for your testimony. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thanks, Senator Lummis. Senator Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And
now, I just want to make let me point something out real quick. You know what I mean? I'm a little behind because I'm watching it like y'all are watching it via like Instagram, so I'm experiencing the same latency. But let me tap into something. This speaks to a lot of an array of things that are important. One, the importance of voting. And I know so many of y'all are so dissuaded by so many things like voting and stuff like that because you feel like you're voiceless. But the truth of the matter is that you're irresponsible consumers and you don't understand a very basic concept. And I'm not talking down to y'all and I'm not underestimating y'all. What I'm saying is that it's a scam. Like, this is something like, it's a lie we've all lived in. Some of us could catch it because if you have certain experience, like if you worked in the news, like if you worked in media, like actual journalism, you would have a knowledge of things that the average person wouldn't because you've worked in journalism and you understand and you've been exposed to aspects of it that the average person has not and will not be exposed to. That's just how it is. It's not an issue of you being smarter than somebody or you being more talented or something like that. I'm in media. I'm in entertainment media. And I understand the aspects of it that most consumers don't. One moment, let me just get this. Yo, this is stink bug season, and somehow or another, one thing that these things is good at is getting in everywhere. So I gotta keep catching them, because you don't want to kill a stink bug. You want to catch it, because if you kill it, it's gonna stink up your house. Anyway, I digress. Listen to what I'm saying to you. The situation goes that as a consumer, you've become lazy. You don't realize that your reality is shaped by what you do. You understand? Like, we've lost touch of that. We feel like if, when things go wrong and bad stuff happens, we take the position that there's nothing we can do about it because the entire world needs to do something about it. That's not true. All you have to do is something about it in your life, and things change drastically. So we have abdicated our personal power as it relates to everything. We don't even believe that our dollars matter. That's why we don't take especially black people don't take their dollars and focus it on anything of any real value. We don't build infrastructures and institutions together. We don't do these things together. Why don't we do these things together? Why? Because we believe that our dollar don't mean nothing, that we can't empower one another. And I keep reminding y'all, when Facebook wasn't shit, when we was all on MySpace chilling, and before MySpace, when some of us was on Black Voices and Black Planet. Well, nobody's, and cats came to Facebook. Facebook was dry as fuck. Instagram was dry as fuck. Musically. No, that was TikTok was musically. Instagram was some other shit. I forget what it was called. But all these shits is popping because you put your energy behind it. You were the one that told your friends to come on and shit. You was the one that was like, yo, check out this content. You was the one that was like, yo, this shit hard. When any rapper ever could just jump up and be like, yo, my shit is hard, and motherfuckers listen to that shit. Or when somebody else be like, yo, you heard so-and-so shit? Nah, that shit sound, that shit hard. Oh, where let me hear that shit. That's the nature of shit. Shit don't pop because of just marketing. Pop because of a cosign. A cosign is what get motherfuckers on. You are the cosign. Every one of you watching, you gotta start believing this shit. You made these shits pop. Y'all made TikTok pop. Your kids made TikTok pop. Y'all made YouTube hot. Y'all made Facebook hot. You made Instagram hot. You the one that made these things into $1 trillion business. You did it. You the one called your relatives up and be like, yo, I'm running all of my peoples over here. Yo, you gotta check this shit out, man. I ran into motherfuckers I ain't seen in years. You did that shit. I'm not saying this as a bad thing. I'm trying to remind you what you're capable of. So now we sitting there, we watching these people ask questions about some shit that 90% of these senators have no fucking clue. They don't know shit about this. They don't know. At most, they got some AIDS that's out of touch. They don't know about this shit. And you know why they in position to do it? Because you didn't vote these people, the right people in. You didn't engage, man. You gave up. So now you got a bunch of fucking thieves in here. You thought that we constantly looking for a daddy. We constantly looking for a mommy. Somebody to take care of shit for us. We don't need that. We just need each other. We just need to stand up for one another. Support one another. Get behind one another, for real. Life is a fucking non-stop job. There is no break in any of the things that you do that's important to you. If it's important to you, you gotta work at it and work with it to make it stay, to stick around. It's gotta maintain, it's gotta be sustained. You can't just want shit to exist and you don't sustain and maintain it. You just up there and boy, you want it's like a motherfucker that want to be in shape. You want to be in great shape. But you're sitting down all day. It doesn't work that way. You have to get the fuck up if you want to keep and maintain a good shape. You trying to get this money, you got a house, I got a house, I've always got to work on the house to maintain it. I built it. I got to redo the whole front of my fucking house because it's fucked up right now. Because you got to maintain shit that you get. You get a car. You think you're going to keep a car running? You get a nice fucking car. You spend $40,000, $50,000 to get a fucking banging ass vehicle, paying $400, $500 a month on a note that has some shit to fly. So you can pull up on niggas looking like something. But you don't change the fucking oil. You don't get it serviced. You don't change the fucking spark plugs. You don't do none of this shit that you're supposed to do. You don't get this shit lubricated. We don't take care of this shit. And you don't keep gas in the fucking car, always running that shit on E. And then you wonder why the fucking bastard overheating and fucked up. You gotta maintain shit. The same way you gotta maintain your culture. That's why your culture, everything you create gets taken from you. Because you don't maintain it. You have no value for it. Come on, I'm talking to y'all. So now you got this shit going on right now where it gets to the point that these motherfuckers got to go to the Senate to talk about some shit that your favorite artists, niggas that you fuck with, that they banging with you, like myself, have been telling you over and over and over again that this is what's happening. Why wasn't it true when I told you that? I told you this was happening. I told you this was happening. And y'all motherfuckers was telling me shit like, oh, well, you just gotta come up with some better content. You just gotta just be consistent. What you gotta do is right. Motherfucker, I've been consistent for years. I'm killing y'all with content right now. What are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about? Go to my Instagram page right now and look how many fucking followers I got. 3,810. Are you fucking mad with the content that I've been posting up? Consistently? What are you talking about? Well, you just know this and this. Maybe it's this, that. Maybe that shit ain't hitting like that. Nigga, you listen to all kind of whack shit. Hip hop. This era's hip hop is all over the fucking radio. It's all over the internet. Them shit's getting millions of fucking hits. It ain't got nothing to do with whether this shit is good or not. I could put whack shit up here. I got a probably better chance than some real shit. You must be crazy. Hold up. You motherfuckers, this is one season when these stink bugs come out, boy, they be worse than roaches in the projects. I'm here to tell you, like, I ain't never seen no shit like this. I digress. Yo, fam, I'm trying to tell y'all something. This shit is getting hectic. You know what I'm saying? Yo, the investment that someone puts into creating the shit that y'all so casually disregard, whether you think it's dope or not, to then, let's say that you ain't spent no money. But you spent a year. All right, let's say you spent a couple of months. Nah, man, fuck that. I'm even taking it out. I just got finished doing this dope video with me using the Missy Elliott joint, the 911 joint. You spend... it took me, I did the song. That was the first day. It took me a day because that beat is, any Timbaland beats, and it was sped up a little bit, I think, too. But the beat is they're intricate. And to do what I do lyrically, I wanted to dance on that. So I wanted my shit, I wanted to dance. I wanted cadence and flows on it. That took me a day to write that shit and get it laid down because shit was difficult. Okay. That in of itself, if I'm posting that shit, you gonna blow my spirit if 40 people just see it. All right. Then, right, it took me 2 weeks to memorize it because there's so many words and the intricacy of it. And it ain't like when I was a kid. I don't know, something about me now, I can't memorize my rhymes as quick as I used to as a kid. You know what I'm saying? So then, after that, I had to go shoot and edit a video. My daughter and my wife, you know what I'm saying? And whatever resources that I had to, I got, I used shoot from my phone, but I got, a moment case, moment lenses. Those are lenses that are adapted for your phone. I got booms and steady cam jibs, crane. I got all kind of shit that go just compatible to phone, recording video on phone. And I come home and the whole next day I'm editing it. All day the next day. And then as I'm going to post it up, right, I'm about to post this shit up, and then it's like I had to pause for a minute. Because I'm like, man, I don't even know where the fuck the post is. This is what made me jump off Facebook. This is why I'm not, after I finish this live, I'm done with this shit. I'm like, yo, where am I post this? Because it's like no one gets to see my shit. Like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this. It's too much effort for nobody to see what you doing. Yo, I don't add people on Facebook. Me like, yo, hey, I want to add that person. Oh, shorty cute, I want to add her. That's not me. That's not me. I don't do that. What I do is I wait for people to add me. So if people are adding me, wouldn't that by virtue of that alone, that action alone indicates that whatever it is that they saw that led them to me, however they discovered me, because 90% of these people are not people that I personally know. Isn't that an indicator that they wanted to see what all I was doing and talking about? Isn't that an indicator that they wanted to know what all I was saying? So why wouldn't they get to see it? Why would only not even less than 1% of the amount of people that follow you see what you're doing? I mean, it's fucking common sense. It's not rocket science. And this is about control. They're controlling what they want you to see. Now, I'm talking to you as an artist trying to, creative, that's just trying to maintain his fucking relevancy and do what he can do to do dope shit for hip-hop and inspire people. I'm on here trying to inspire from a legitimate viewpoint. Like, I'm on here breakdancing, busting my shit. That shit hurts. I'm fucking 50 years old for nothing, nigga. Like, goddamn. It's fun, though. I ain't gonna lie. Like, this shit ain't fun. It's fun. But still, that shit hurt, too. I be having to take a couple of days. Sometimes, yo, what's up? You do? Nigga, I'm trying to rest. I'm tired. That shit hurts. And aside from all the other things that I have to do, like I don't have fucking maids, and I can't afford for pay people to do the things that I need them to do. I'm not rich. I'm an average person who just done I'm an extraordinary human being living an average life. I'm not in a position to do that. I'm out here trying to do positive shit. Motivate people, inspire people. Yo, you got people that talk pure fucking dumb shit. 5 million people watch that shit like, whoa, that shit's dope. That shit's true. I'm showing you a 50-year-old fucking man getting his shit up so he could do backflips on a fucking what the fuck? You gonna tell me no one wanna see that? It's just cause my content's not good enough? Get the fuck out of here. See, and then you believe that shit, and then it empowers the lie. And then what does the lie do? The lie gets emboldened. And once it know it got its shit good, then the lie will start doing this shit to you. But that shit they said, and he told them, yo, when the blacks was telling them, yo, this and that, you know what I'm saying? You was like, well, that ain't me, so you stayed out of it. And when the Asians was telling you that they doing this and that, you was like, well, that shit ain't me, so you stayed out of it. And when the sisters was telling you, yo, they doing this to that, That shit wasn't me, so you stayed out of it. When the gays was telling you, yo, they doing this and that, you was like, well, that ain't me, so you stayed out of it. And then they finally came for your ass. And you was looking around for somebody to help you. But wasn't nobody there. Because now it's your ass. That's what we do. That's what we did. It's what we out here dealing with. Let's see what all they lying about. And I'm going to, you know what I'm saying? Anybody got anything to add on? You know what I'm saying? Of course, you know the floor is open. Bill, you already know how we give it up.
And contempt for the rule of law and for the very legal structure that gives corporate conduct, at least in court. So you've provided us with some of the reforms that you think are important. You provided us with some of the reforms that you think are important, and I think that the oversight goes a long way because it in turn would make public a lot of what is going on in this black box. But for now, since a lot of teens are going home tonight, as you've said, to endure the bullying, the eating disorders, the invitations to feel insecure about themselves, heightened anxiety. They have to live with the real world as it exists right now. And they will be haunted for their lifetimes by these experiences. What would you tell parents right now? What would you advise them about what they can do? Because they need more tools. And some of the proposals that have been mentioned here would give parents more tools to protect their children. Right now, a lot of parents tell me they feel powerless. They need more information. They're way behind their kids in their adeptness online. And they feel that they need to be empowered in some way to protect their kids in the real world right now in real time. So I offer you that open-ended opportunity to talk to us a little bit about your thoughts.
Very rarely do you have one of these generational shifts where the generation that leads, like parents who guide their children, have such a different set of experiences that they don't have the context to support their children in a safe way. There is an active need for schools or maybe the National Institutes of Health to make established information where if parents want to learn on how they can support their kids, it should be easy for them to know what is constructive and not constructive. Because Facebook's own research says kids today feel like they are struggling alone with all these issues because their parents can't guide them. And one of the things I'm saddest when I look on Twitter is when people blame the parents for these problems with Facebook. They say, just take your kid's phone away. And the reality is those issues are a lot more complicated than that. And so we need to support parents because right now, if Facebook won't protect the kids, we at least need to help the parents to protect the kids.
If parents are anguished,
they are,
about this issue. Parents are hardly uncaring. They need the tools.
Internal governance is very much based around metrics. So Facebook is incredibly flat to the point where they have the largest open floor plan office in the world. It's 1/4 mile long in one room, right? They believe in flat. And instead of having internal governance, they have metrics that people try to move. In a world like that, it doesn't matter that we now have multiple years of data saying MSI may be encouraging bad content, might be making spaces where people are scared, where they are shown information that puts them at risk. It's so hard to dislodge a ruler like that, a yardstick, that you end up in the situation where because no one is taking leadership, like no one is intentionally designing these systems, it's just many, many people running in parallel, all moving the metric, that these problems get amplified and amplified and amplified, and no one steps in to bring the solutions.
And I just want to finish, and then I think we've been joined by Senator Young, and then we'll go to Senator Blackburn and Senator Klobuchar. I spent a number of years as an attorney general, helping to lead litigation against big tobacco. And I came to hear from a lot of smokers how grateful they were, ironically and unexpectedly, that someone was fighting big tobacco because they felt they had been victimized as children. They started smoking when they were 7, 8, 12 years old because big tobacco was hooking them. And as we developed the research very methodically and purposefully, addicting them at that early age when they believed that they would make themselves more popular, that they would be cool and hip if they began smoking. And then nicotine hooked them. Now, physiologically, nicotine has addictive properties. What is it about Facebook's tactics of hooking young people that makes it similar to what big tobacco has done?
Facebook's own research about Instagram contains quotes from kids saying, I feel bad when I use Instagram, but I also feel like I can't stop, right? I know that the more time I spend on this, the worse I feel, but like I just can't, like that they want the next click, they want the next like, the dopamine, you know, the little hits all the time. And I feel a lot of pain for those kids, right? Like they say they fear being ostracized if they step away from the platform. So imagine you're in this situation, you're in this relationship where every time you open the app, it makes you feel worse, but you also fear isolation if you don't. I think there's a huge opportunity here to make social media that makes kids feel good, not feel bad, and that we have an obligation to our youth to make sure that they're safe online.
Thank you. Senator Young?
Jen, thank you for your compelling testimony. In that testimony, you discuss how Facebook generates self-harm and girls. I happen to be a father of 4 kids, 3 daughters, 2 of whom are teenagers, and as you just alluded to, most adults, myself included, have never been a teenager during the age of Facebook, Instagram, and these other social media platforms.
Let me just step in real quick and say this.
I think it can be really...
Pardon me. Now you see how they're saying like that addiction where you're like, yo, you know you don't want to, like you don't even want to go on there, but if you don't, you know, you'll be ostracized. Let me give you the artist version of it. You know, every rapper, every artist doesn't have every musician, every performer doesn't have a gigantic fan base. Some of us have, you know, a few thousand people that fuck with us the long way. And that's how we maintain ourselves as working artists. I am one of them. All right. So, yo, fam, this shit, yo, I literally am on the internet all day, every day, just trying to hold on. You know what I'm saying? Just trying to hold on to the little bit of people that I got. Trying to hold on to what we call it, staying relevant. Like, and I'll be honest with you, for me, this shit don't even work. Niggas don't be having me come do no shows and shit. Like, I don't be on no, you heard me talking about no tour I'm going on. When you heard me talking about some performance I was gonna do. Like, that's how fucking marginalized you can get. I mean, and let's not even say, like, all right, why wouldn't the UMCs be performing anywhere? Be a classic fucking group. Why wouldn't you never have all these whack-ass motherfuckers to get to run around doing they fucking songs? Some of these motherfuckers ain't had careers big as ours. We have more than one #1 hit, y'all. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, we not, you know what I'm saying? So you need, like, I can't afford to lose one of y'all motherfuckers, man. I can't even stand up to this shit. I gotta keep playing the game because if y'all won't move, then I can't move. Cause then I gotta go. You know what I'm saying? What the fuck, man? Oh man. Well, just fuck it then, nigga. What? All right, well, then you just fuck it then. Why don't you, whatever you doing, when you are unsatisfied by it, why don't you say fuck it? When you want to complain about racism, why don't you say fuck it and just leave the country like how the white people be telling you, yo, you don't like it, just leave. Why don't you just leave and stop fucking complaining? Why don't you just say fuck it when, you know what I'm saying, you want to complain about how men is doing you or how women is doing you and all shit. Like you want me to shut up and eat it. Shit crazy, man.
Misinformation. Stop working when people look at 2,000 posts a day, right? And it breaks my heart, the idea that these rabbit holes would suck people down and then make it hard to connect with others.
So Ms. Hougen, I desperately want to, which is the American impulse, I want to solve this problem. And I very much believe that Congress not only has a role, but has a responsibility to figure this out. I don't pretend to have all the answers. I would value your opinion, though, as to whether you believe that breaking up Facebook would solve any of the problems that you've discussed today. Do you think it would?
So as an algorithmic specialist, so this is someone who designs algorithmic experiences, I'm actually against the breaking up of Facebook because even looking inside of just Facebook itself, so not even Facebook and Instagram, you see the problems of engagement-based ranking repeat themselves. So the problems here are about the design of algorithms of AI and the idea that AI is not intelligent. And if you break up Instagram and Facebook from each other, it's likely, so I used to work on Pinterest. And a thing that we faced from a business model perspective was that advertisers didn't want to learn multiple advertising platforms. That they wanted to learn, they got one platform for Instagram and Facebook and whatever, and learning a second one for Pinterest, Pinterest made radically fewer dollars per user. And what I'm scared of is right now, Facebook is the internet for lots of the world. If you go to Africa, the internet is Facebook. If you split Facebook and Instagram apart, it's likely that most advertising dollars will go to Instagram, and Facebook will continue to be this Frankenstein that is altering, that is endangering lives around the world, only now there won't be money to fund it. And so I think oversight and finding collaborative solutions with Congress is going to be key because these systems are going to continue to exist and be dangerous even if broken up.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Ms.
Senator.
Hougen.
Senator Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a text that was just put up by Facebook's spokesperson, Andy Stone. It says, just pointing out the fact that topic from her work at Facebook. So I will simply say this to Mr. Stone. If Facebook wants to discuss their targeting of children, if they want to discuss their practices of privacy invasion or violations of the Children Online Privacy Act, I am extending to you an invitation to step forward, be sworn in, and testify before this committee. We would be pleased to hear from you and welcome your testimony. One quick question for you. What's the biggest threat to Facebook's existence? Is it greed? Is it regulators? Is it becoming extinct or obsolete for teenage users? What is the biggest threat to their existence?
I think the fact that Facebook is driven so much by metrics and that these lead to a very heavy emphasis on short-termism, that every little individual decision may seem like it helps with growth, but if it makes it more and more toxic platform that people don't actually enjoy, like when they passed meaningful social interactions back in 2018, Facebook's own research said that users said it made it less meaningful, right? I think this aggregated set of short-term decisions endangers Facebook's future. Okay. But sometimes we need to pull it away from business as usual, help it write new rules if we want it to be successful in the future.
So they can't see the forest for the trees.
Yes, yes. Very well put.
Thank you. And I know Senator Klobuchar is waiting, so I'll yield my time back, and I thank you.
Thanks, Senator Blackburn.
Thank you very much, and thank you to both of you for your leadership. And all three of us are on the Judiciary Committee, so we're also working on a host of other issues, including the App Store issues, which is unrelated to Facebook, actually, including issues relating to dominant platforms when they promote their own content or engage in exclusionary conduct, which I know is not our topic today. I see the thumbs up from you, Ms. Haugen, which I appreciate. And I think this idea of establishing some rules of the road for these tech platforms goes beyond the kid protection that we so dearly need to do. And I just want to make sure you agree with me on that.
Totally. I was shocked when I saw the New York Times story a couple of weeks ago about Facebook using its own platform to promote positive news about itself. I was like, wow. I knew you shaped our reality. I wasn't aware it was that much.
Right, and that's a lot of the work that we're doing over there. So I want to get to something Senator Young was talking about, misinformation. And Senator Lujan and I have put together an exception, actually, to the 230 immunity when it comes to vaccine misinformation in the middle of a public health crisis. Last week, YouTube announced it was swiftly banning all anti-vaccine misinformation. And I've long called on Facebook to take similar steps. They've taken some steps, but do you think they can remove this content, and do they put sufficient resources? We know the effect of this. We know that over half the people that haven't gotten the vaccines, it's because of something that they've seen on social media. I know the guy who walked into a cafe and said his mother-in-law wouldn't get a vaccine because she thought a microchip would be planted in her arm. Could you... which is false, I'm just saying that for the record here.
Yeah.
Could, in case it gets put on social media, could you talk about, are there enough resources to stop this from happening?
I do not believe Facebook, as currently structured, has the capability to stop vaccine misinformation because they're overly reliant on artificial intelligence systems that they themselves say will likely never get more than 10 to 20% of content.
There you go. And yet it's a company that, the cap over $1 trillion, one of the world's biggest companies that we've ever known. And that's what really bothers me. Here, Senator Lujan and I also have pointed out the issue with content moderators. Does Facebook have enough content moderations for content in Spanish and other languages besides English?
One of the things that was disclosed, we have documentation that shows how much operational investment there was by different languages, and it showed a consistent pattern of underinvestment in languages that are not English. I am deeply concerned about Facebook's ability to operate in a safe way in languages beyond maybe the top 20 in the world.
Okay, thank you. We go back to eating disorders. Today you've said that you have documents indicating Facebook is doing studies on kids under 13, even though technically no kids under 13 are permitted on the platform. The potential for eating disorder content to be shown to these children raises serious concerns. Senator Blumenthal's been working on this. I've long been focused on this eating disorder issue, given the mortality rates. Are you aware of studies Facebook has conducted about whether kids under 13 on the platform are nudged towards content related to eating disorders or unhealthy diet practices? CNN also did investigation on this front.
I have not seen specific studies regarding eating disorders in under the age of 13, but I have seen research that indicates that they are aware that teenagers that as a myth that you can't be authentic on the platform, and that the marketing team should try to advertise to teenagers to stop coaching tweens that way. So I believe we've shared that document with Congress already.
Exactly. Well, thank you, and we'll be looking more. Speaking of the research issue, Facebook has tried to downplay the internal research that was done, saying it was unreliable. It seems to me that they're trying to mislead us there. The research was extensive, surveying hundreds of thousands of people traveling around the world to interview users. In your view, are the internal researchers at Facebook who examine how users are affected by the platform, is their work thorough? Are they experienced? Is it fair for Facebook to throw them under the bus?
Facebook has one of the top-ranked research programs in the tech industry. Like, they've invested more in it than I believe any other social media platform. And some of the biggest heroes inside the company are the researchers, because they are boldly asking real questions and being willing to say awkward truths. The fact that Facebook is throwing them under the bus, I think, is unacceptable, and I just want the researchers to know that I stand with them and that I see them.
Or maybe we should say, as the name of one book, The Ugly Truth.
Yeah.
What about Facebook blocking researchers at NYU from accessing the platform? Does that concern you? These are outside researchers.
I am deeply concerned. So for context, for those who are not familiar with this research, there are researchers at NYU who, because Facebook does not publish enough data on political advertisements or how they are distributed, these are advertisements that influence our democracy and how it operates. They created a plugin that allowed people to opt in, to volunteer, to help collect this data collectively, and Facebook lashed out at them and even banned some of their individual accounts. The fact that Facebook is...
Won't mute that. I'm monitoring, my shit, of course, and I'm looking at, Instagram, this cat 1King33. He talking about, well, what are you guys doing about it? It's already viral. It was on the damn CNN, holding hearings on it now, and what are they or anyone gonna do? Nothing but stay doing the same. Stop fooling yourselves and evolve personally, privately, and internally. Then he goes and say, it's their platform. They could turn it off and on when they when the fuck they want. What's wrong with you humans? Figure your own shit out and stop caring what others do with their stuff. What the fuck? This is the problem. It's dudes like that is the problem. That's why I'm on here like this right now. That's why I'm speaking to this right now. You understand? This and dudes like this is the problem. Am I saying like they allow you to create this narrative to justify the shit that they do, and then they can do it unfettered. See, so some fool like boy talking about it's their platform, fam. Mad people got their platform, and them platforms ain't nowhere. You know why? Because we didn't empower them. It's like you walk into a store, you expect decent service because you're spending your money there. Don't you understand that your time and attention is that is the only commodity on this planet. And then by that logic, then what is you complaining about cops killing blacks on the street? It's their country. What are you complaining about black people being marginalized in the country they helped build? Well, it's their country. What are you complaining about the fact that they're trying to remove anything that even remotely sound like truth in history? Oh, what you upset about? You don't want to teach them about anything going on. Everything ever happened to blacks so that young white kids could know how fucked up their parents were and their grandparents and their forebearers were, ancestors. They don't want you to hear nothing about that, but you shouldn't say shit about that because it's their educational system. Your job tries to have you do some shit that's illegal. It's just this workplace. No, it's not. Doesn't work like that. That's not how shit work. Sorry. Hate to break it to you. It's not how it works. It's because it's your shit. You can't just do whatever the fuck you want. Sorry. Yo, do you realize that if somebody come on my property right now, I can't shoot them until they try to do like that. I got to shoot them coming in. I can't shoot them running away. Like, there's rules about that. You try to steal some shit, I don't catch you in the act. I catch you trying to make, or you try to run away from me while I catch you, and I shoot you, and I end up shooting you in the back. I'm going to jail for that. There's even rules for that. Like, just because it's your shit, you can't just do whatever the fuck you want to do. People don't get, man. Like, you talk. You don't really know what the fuck you talking about. Or you want to express your own personal anger about some other shit that really don't got nothing to do with the conversation. So you say shit, but it's like, when it don't line up, it was the facts of this shit. You don't get to just do what you want. Listen, I'm tell you like this. That's why I'm telling guys like, yo, you sound like a bot to me. People be sounding like bots. You know what I'm saying? Shit is crazy. But, I don't know what to tell y'all, man. Like, I don't know what to tell y'all, man. Like, because it's one of them things, it's like, when I'm trying to explain, it requires a whole lot of us owning our job in this. Like, taking responsibility for our part. That it's our responsibility to reform the shit that needs reforming. It's our responsibility to step to the things that need stepping to. It's our responsibility to do shit. Yeah. It's not enough to just complain all day. That's all cats is good for. Complaining ain't gonna do it. Right now, it's time for cats to be actively engaging with all they seeing happening. You watching this with me. If you've popped in and out, if you watch this at any length, you already now know what's up, what they doing. Not only with you and your content, not only what they doing to your kids, not only what they doing to this country, all that. You seeing it right now. It's made apparent to you. Now what you gonna do? So now if I say, yo, you should fuck with this fan base, you ain't gonna fuck with that because you gotta go through the motions of, you know what I'm saying? You're not gonna do that. But at the same time, you're gonna be in my inbox talking about I need to make another y'all should all get lynched. Get the fuck out of here. If I do, I'm gonna be talking about you. What are you gonna do? That's the only thing that boy said that make any sense. What is you gonna do? You gonna stay on here? You gonna keep accepting this? You gonna keep being told what to do? They don't even gotta y'all be thinking that people gonna tell you what to do and you gonna resist it because you fuck that. You might tell me not to do nothing. Niggas is telling you what to do all the time, and you doing it all the time without any thought. So now what you gonna do? What you with? What you wanna do? I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. You can see me on this fan base. That's what you could do. You understand? That's what you could do. You could see me on this fan base. See what's really good. You understand what I'm saying? Word is bond. That's all I could tell you. If you watching, ain't nobody watching this shit on Facebook. I was gonna say if you watching on Facebook, I was gonna play the video for y'all. I can't play it on this shit because you see how this shit is all looking crazy. But so that's pretty much that. So I'm about to make a move because y'all can watch the rest of this shit yourself. I got other shit to do and I want to actually do it. Like sit around and read my anime because I'm tired. But in the meantime, in between time, if you fucking with me on Facebook, I'm really not. That's it, man. I'm done. You heard? I'm on this fan base shit. So my profile will be up for a while because if I really need to post something on here I find important, I want to still have access, and I'm still going to be downloading all of my content that I put on there. So when I delete this shit, nobody could be using it. Nobody could be tagged. I don't want nobody. Once my shit is, if I'm not on there, I don't want my shit to be available for nobody to see. I don't want nobody to be entertained postpartum. Fuck that. You know what I'm saying? Fuck all that. You know what I'm saying? See me where I'm at. Straight like that. I'm going to bang with this Instagram shit a little longer. Only because I got the slightest bit of momentum on here. And the truth be known, I just really want to migrate the people that fuck with me the long way over the fan base so I don't lose y'all out of my life. That's all that really is. It ain't much. It ain't nothing else to it. I have friendships here. I have people that I really enjoy your life, that I enjoy that y'all are in my life. And I would hate to see you gone out of my life because I had to switch or I moved out of town, for lack of a better term. But I got to go because this shit is not fucking healthy for me at all. And I don't understand how motherfuckers keep tolerating shit like this. And now I'm mad at myself for letting this shit rock for 11 years of this shit. 11 fucking years I've been letting these motherfuckers do this shit to me, and I ain't do nothing about it. Well, I intend on doing something about it now. Trust that. Fuck Facebook. And Instagram's next. Believe that. Shit, friendly neighborhood flag. Matter of fact, my